Good evening, everyone. This is the June 25th meeting of the Revere City Council. Would everyone please rise to salute the flag?
Roll call of the members. Councilor Guanasso.
Here.
Here. Councilor Keefe.
Here.
Here. Councilor McKenna.
Here.
Here. Councilor Morabito.
Here.
Here. Councilor Novoselsky.
Here.
Here. Councilor Patch.
Here.
Here. Councilor Powers.
Here.
Here. Councilor Rizzo. Here. Councilor Rotundo. Here. Councilor Zambuto.
Here.
Here. And Council President Gedino.
Here.
Here. Quorum is present. Calendar item number 2, approval of the journal of the regular meeting of June 18th, 2018.
This time, I'd just like to take a moment to welcome Speaker of the House, Representative Bob DeLeo. As well as Representative Rosalie Vincent. At this time, we'll take up calendar item number 3.
Calendar item number 3, that the City Council award a plaque for commending District Attorney Dan Conley in helping the residents of Revere and all of Suffolk County.
Welcome you all tonight, in particular, District Attorney Dan Conley. For me, it's a little bit personal. I've dealt with this office on a personal level, but I can't explain to you the measure of decorum, kindness, and assistance he's provided me and my family at one time. And for that, I am eternally grateful and indebted to you. That said, in 1987, then Dan Conley was a young man making his way through the world, and he became a prosecutor over at Suffolk Superior Court. And it was during the time in which there was a lot of gang violence in the community, a great amount, to be quite honest with you. He worked there between 1980 and, I believe, early 1990s.
84 to 93.
84 to 93. And worked on anti-gang task force, and thereafter he ran for city council, and I believe that's between 94 and 2002, correct? Thereafter he succeeded one of the most famous mayors in the country, Tom Menino. I believe in 2002, Ralph Martin decided that he wasn't going to run for district attorney at that time, and sure enough, Dan did. During that time, Dan implemented in his tenure some of the most progressive policies in the country. Worked with Barry Scheck, offering in the Innocence Project to ensure that people that were wrongly convicted were helped. In fact, during Dan's time, he was a prosecutor that had a very unique saying, that it was a prosecutor's duty not to just win cases or convictions, but to do justice in every case, every time. And as a district attorney, that's what he did. He showed that responsibility through and through, managing the district and municipal courts, the appellate and district level for the DA, as well as felony bureau crimes and homicide. Dan's career has been truly, truly stunning. With that said, I felt quite needed that through his work for the district, and more importantly for Revere, for our children, for our seniors, that there's very little token that we could provide him. With that said, I'd like to bestow upon you this plaque. What it says is, District Attorney Dan Conley from 2002 to 2018 for his exemplary service to Suffolk County and the rule of law. The hallmark of his career as Suffolk District Attorney can be defined with the simplest but truest statement. A prosecutor's duty isn't just to win convictions, it's to do justice in every case, every time. And Dan, with that said, I'd like to bestow that to you.
Thank you, George. Thank you very much.
Now, with that said, everybody's looking at Lady Liberty here, or shall I say the Lady of Justice. I seen this at Blanche's, where I went to go get the plaque and so forth, and I said, what a fitting piece of memorabilia for Dan. So I'd also like to give this to you, Dan, as well. I feel that it's more than fitting. Maybe you can put it up on your desk, or for that matter, a bookend, I don't know.
That's great. Thank you so much, George. Yeah.
Enjoy that.
Thank you.
If you'd like to say some words,
Sure,
please.
I would. Thank you very much. First of all, George, thank you very much. When George sent me an email and then called me and asked if I would come, I was, honored, first of all, and very thankful to George and to all the members of the council for giving me this award tonight. Since I announced that I would not be seeking a fifth term as district attorney, I've had a number of opportunities where people have asked me to come up on stage or at some event or whatever and say all these really great things about me, like George just did. It's kind of like being at an Irish wake, except the corpse is living. And it's saying all these great things about you when you were alive. But as you folks in Revere well know, I'm just not Irish, I'm Italian as well. And when I first, my grandparents came from Italy in the early part of the 20th century. So my mother's maiden name is Di Napoli. So when I started to campaign in Revere, that was a huge plus in 2002, and probably is still to this day. And little known fact that in 2002, in a very spirited election where there were 4 serious opponents running, the highest margin of votes that I received in that election was from the city of Revere. I got more votes in raw numbers and percentage in Revere than I did in West Roxbury, which is roughly equivalent in size. So you really think about it, it was the city of Revere that perhaps vaulted me into this position. And little did the city of Revere know that pretty much Kelly's roast beef, and on occasion when I was a teenager, Revere Beach were really my minimal contacts with the city. Even though, as George pointed out, I had been an assistant district attorney for 9 years, most of the work I did was centered, as it is today, for crimes that occurred in Roxbury, Dorchester, and Mattapan, neighborhoods that still struggle with some heavy crime and violence. Under the leadership of Chief Guido and so many other great officers that have come through the department, and with the political leadership here in the city, including Speaker DeLeo and Rose, this is a very livable city, and a city that, frankly, we don't have to spend a tremendous amount of time and resources dealing with. So that's a real tribute to all of you. But it's been the singular privilege of my life to serve as the Suffolk County District Attorney. But I got my start as a member of the Boston City Council, as George pointed out. And the work that went on, the little things that you do for people in anonymity, fixing the street sign, trimming the trees, getting a police officer on the beat to pay a bit more attention, are so pivotal to the livability of any city. And I will tell you that when I ran for DA, how many people in my city council district said to me, I know nothing about what the DA does or what your positions are, but when I called you in 1995 and you got that tree trimmed in front of my house, that's why I'm voting for you. So remember, those little things, they add up, and are magnified over time. People still to this day stop me and talk about things that I can't even recall that I did, but know that it's very meaningful and important in their lives. The job is very, very critical to the public safety. There's no question about that, and I believe that you want the greatest possible successor to me. And this is not a political event, but I do want to thank for being here tonight, and with me tonight is a member of the chief of my gang unit, Greg Henning, who's here, and Greg is running for this position. Look at all the candidates carefully, but I think you will see an incredibly talented, professional prosecutor who's compassionate and fair to all. But anyways, having said that, it's been, as I said, an honor and a privilege to serve the citizens of Revere. You've been terrific constituents, and you know, I have a place, we have a family home in Maine, a little cottage. John sees me up there and, on occasion, and when I'm driving home from Maine and I hit the city of Revere on Route 1, I know I'm home. Okay, so thank you for all you've done for me. I really appreciate it, and thank you for this really, really great honor. I appreciate it. You want the box or the outside with that? Sure, I'll take the box. It almost seemed like you want the music to start playing now, right? That,
What makes it easy to back somebody? Thank you all for your patience.
So on to calendar items number 4 and 5. They'll be taken up together. That the City Council award a certificate of commendation to Bob Rapucci of Capic for the outstanding community service he does for the city of Revere. Most recently, he was able to secure funding for a homeowner in Beachmont whose basement was destroyed by this winter's severe storms. And calendar item number 5, that the City Council award a certificate of commendation to Joan Masillo, legislative aide to Speaker DeLeo, for the assistance she provides day in and day out to residents of the city of Revere by helping them resolve quality of life issues and getting folks in contact with the appropriate state agencies or local resources.
You're welcome.
Congratulations.
Sure. Good evening, everyone, and thanks for coming. Tonight, the City Council is honoring 2 individuals that have gone above and beyond their normal duties, regardless of credit or recognition, to assist the unfortunate and needy residents in Revere. During times of crisis, their tireless effort and selflessness has come through with help when we needed it the most. I first met Bob Rapucci while teaching at Revere High School. I had a few students that were homeless, and they were living in their cars. I got a tip from Capic to call Bob for assistance. He immediately responded, ensuring financial aid and setting up housing for these students. I met Joan Masillo a few years later when I became a counselor through Speaker DeLeo's office. I call her on a regular basis, almost every day, to help with community service problems. Without her experience and ability to reach out, many of those in need would have had a much more difficult time acquiring assistance. Bob and Joan have combined their efforts during some of the most trying times in the city's recent history. Following the destruction of the Taft Street fire, Joan and I made calls for hours trying to get aid for 6 families displaced by the blaze. When Joan called Bob Rapucci, he graciously ensured financial help to improve housing for all 6 families. Just recently, Beachmont was inundated with 2 nor'easters. Pearl Ave was under 4 feet of water, and some of the residents lost everything. Again, I called Joan first because she always knows who to call next. She immediately called Bob, who reached out to the IBEW Local 103, who ensured electrical work and aid free of charge for a displaced 95-year-old woman, making her unlivable home a house again. If my first 3 years as a counselor has taught me anything, it takes a village to get things done. Joe Masillo and Barbara Pucci are the greatest teachers as they lead by example and give with little thought of themselves. When the city faces its share of adversity, I have the comfort of knowing that a call to them is many times the only call I need to make. Thank you both for being a big part of this journey, my journey, and your tireless efforts to help our community. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Want me to read the citations, Joanne, and then we'll have...
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to read and present the citations, and then I know a few counselors want to say a few words, and then we'll invite Mr. Speaker and Representative Vincent up as well. So, in no particular order.
If I can't.
In acknowledgement of the assistance she provides day in and day out for the residents of the city of Revere by helping them solve quality of life issues through prompt and efficient constituent services, and by assisting residents in contacting the appropriate state agencies or local resources for whatever issue they may have. Her work ethic and outstanding public service is a direct reflection of Speaker of the House Robert A. DeLeo and the operations of his office. Therefore, special recognition is hereby accorded to Joan Masillo. In witness whereof, this certificate of commendation is gratefully bestowed by the City Council of the City of Revere, Massachusetts, on behalf of its citizens, this 25th day of June in the year of our Lord, 2018, and in the independence of the United States of America, the 241st. Signed by City Clerk Ashley Melnick and myself, Council President Janino, offered by Council Vice President Joanne McKenna.
Thank you.
Congratulations. All right. And in acknowledgement of the outstanding community service he does for the city of Revere through his workings of CAPIC by addressing the needs, problems, and concerns, lost my place, of the less fortunate, in addition to recently securing funding for a homeowner in Beachmont whose basement was completely destroyed by this winter's severe storms, special recognition is hereby accorded to Robert Rapucci. In witness whereof, the certificate of commendation is gratefully bestowed by the City Council of the City of Revere, Massachusetts, on behalf of its citizens this 25th day of June in the year of our Lord, 2018, and in the independence of the United States of America, the 241st. It's offered by City Clerk Ashley Melnick and City Council President Jessica Janino, offered by Council Vice President Joanne McKenna. Congratulations. At this time, I'll have any council members. I know Councilor Zambudo has a few words to say, and then I'll invite our state representatives up.
So obviously, I've known Joan a long time. She was at the State House for many years, and then the Speaker, as he always does, grabs the best talent, no matter where they are. And so it's a perfect case of him selecting people that he knows can get the job done. And you're a perfect example of that. The other reason I'm here is obviously I've been a CAPIC board member as long as I've been a city councilor. And this gentleman here to my left, I've probably called him maybe a couple of thousand times since I've been on the city council. He has never said no once. All he asked for is a little help in getting the funding so he can help people. Now, a lot of people in this audience have done a lot. Representative Vincent, before her, Representative Reinstein, of course, the Speaker of the House, who can get anything done and does whenever we need. And so I don't know a guy that cares more about people than Barbara Pucci. So I'm honored to call him a friend and a colleague as a CAPIC board member. Thank you.
Oh, you want to take a picture?
This time we'll ask Speaker of the House DeLeo and Representative Vincent to come up, and we'll take a group picture. We also have the Mayor, Brian Arrigo, in attendance this evening. Welcome.
Bob say something out there?
I sincerely want to thank the councilors for recognizing these two in particular people, because everything that was stated before was really true. You know, it's interesting to know that in very difficult times of need, whether you're a first-term representative or Speaker of the House, as Rosalie can also attest to, the major part of our job is really still to help people. We talk a little bit about, obviously, about major issues that are going on in our state and how it affects everyone around the state and whatnot. But still, the thing that I'd like to instill in the people who work for me, and I think they do such a great job, is the fact that we're there to help people, especially those within the district that we represent. And I have to tell you, the two people here chosen today are just unbelievable. With Bob, I can't tell you the number of times, and sometimes especially in difficult fiscal times, when people, you know, looking for a roof over their head, or they've been displaced because of a fire or flooding or whatever it may be. Sometimes they just need food or whatever it may be. Bob Rapucci has been there. As Councilor Zambudo had mentioned, I can't remember the time when he has said no. He's always been there for us. And over the number of years that I've known him, he's always been there. And Bob, thank you so much for the great work that you do. And with Joan, she's just an amazing lady. You know, it's interesting to note that when Joan comes into my office, it's interesting to see how she always goes that extra yard. Okay, sometimes I may say, Joan, you know, okay, that's good. No, but I think if we can go one step further, Mr. Speaker, we can get this done or we can get that done. And she teaches me a lesson, that's what we have to do. Okay, that's what we have to do sometimes. We have to take that extra step, you know, to get things done. And that's what's so wonderful about having someone like Joan work, you know, quite frankly, in the office. Whenever I see her and she gets done, and she's similar to Bob, similar to the stories, where she says, you know, Mr. Speaker, I just want to let you know, we were able to help this person. We were able to get them a gift card to Stop and Shop so they could get some food to eat, or whatever it may be. You know, and I just can't say enough about her. Because I can't tell you the number of people who stop me on the street and say, thank you so much for having Joan, because of what she does each and every day, whether it's to help someone who's disabled or whatever it may be. Joan, I congratulate you. For most of all, I thank you. I can't say how fortunate I am, and we are to have you in the office. So in closing, thank you very much, Councilor. Thank you so much. And I also just want to end it and you know, just say how fortunate that I feel on a personal note that I work with such a great city council here in the city of Revere. Thank you and God bless.
Well, thank you. Well, first and foremost, if you know me, thanks to God. He's given me the health, the determination, the courage to be able to do this work for 45 years. And we're with such great people tonight, to be able to share the floor with Joan, who's just an incredible team member, and Dan Connolly. You know, I grew up in Revere. I grew up in veterans housing. My dad was injured in World War II, and I don't know where we would have went otherwise, but we grew up on Broadway and then moved to Constitution Ave. Wonderful days. Across the street from the Cotillos and the Graffs and the Sarmanians, people that we know, many of whom come to see us today for help. So I think I bonded very closely back then because I got to see life, and those were wonderful days, but we got help, and it was help we needed. So I think today, every day, when I come into work, I'm working at home. I have the best job in the world to be able to be here in Revere where I grew up. And I think what we try to do every day is to give people hope and to give them opportunity, that just a little bit of hope might be what they need today to get to tomorrow. So I want to thank City Councilor Joanna McKenna for sponsoring this recognition, and each and every one of you, members of the council. Speaker DeLeo, the work I do, I could never do without Speaker DeLeo and the appropriations that he make available to us, to this community and statewide. So thank you very much. And thank you all.
We'll give it a brief minute recess. All right. On that note, I'm going to ask for a suspension of rules. All in favor? All opposed? So ordered. And I'd like to take up calendar item 13, the Ways and Means Subcommittee report. This time, I believe we're going to take up the budget first, and then we will go into some items that we're not able to take up during subcommittee earlier this evening. So at this time, I'm going to open it up to, let me see. Madam Clerk, what item? We'll have Chairman Rizzo start with the budget, and then we'll go into the rest of the report.
So, Madam President, are you looking for a Ways and Means Committee report on the budget right now?
Yeah, let's start with the budget, and then we'll go into the loan orders and everything else after.
Okay. Well, first of all, Madam President, thank you very much for having the confidence in me to name me the chairman of Ways and Means for this process. This, as many of the councilors know, is one of the major duties that we have up here, and making sure that we thoroughly cover the budget, go through the budget, and look for any areas that might need our attention. The only thing that this city council can do is cut. We cannot appropriate money. We don't make any allocations. We can only cut. That's the only ability that we have. So, you know, I'll go through just a few things, and then I believe, and I'll check through you, Madam President, with the city clerk, there were a couple of proposals. If we're going to still put them forward and have them voted on. But for now, I just want to thank some people in particular. I'd like to thank our city clerk for being here during these meetings. I'd like to thank Rich Fiscay, our city auditor, for participating in the process. I'd like to certainly thank our department heads and members of the city council who participated as well. The budget, as we know, has gone up from $184 million last year to $206 million this year. This budget creates 65 new FTEs, which stands for full-time equivalencies. 19 are on the general government side, and the rest are on the school department. I think it's worth noting that our student population has gone from 7,370 in FY16 to an anticipated almost 7,900 in FY19, a situation that we really have to pay attention to. When we went through the budget, Madam President, there were some areas that we got clarification on, some areas that I personally felt should be addressed and maybe offered up some cuts. One was approved in subcommittee, the other one was disapproved. But I think that it would be helpful, especially for the edification of councilors who weren't at the meeting, and I'll defer to the city clerk if it's appropriate, to take up the two proposed cuts, and then we'll vote on the entire budget as a whole after that. So with that, Madam President, I'll defer to our city clerk on the two proposed cuts that we had in subcommittee.
So, Councilor Rizzo, the first cut that you had offered in subcommittee was $1 million reduction on the group health insurance on page 133.
Yes.
Roll call.
Madam President, this is the cut, what was the recommendation of the committee on this one?
It failed.
It failed. Okay. If I may, Madam President. Madam President, I'm glad it failed because a cut in this particular line would affect a lot of the employees. And we have to realize that we have 19 new employees on the operational side of the city. And that alone adds a little more than $500,000. And I think that any cuts, additional cuts in this will be harmful to the employees and the city. So I would not be voting for this, and I hope that the rest of our council does not vote for this. Thank you.
Madam President? Point of information. With due respect to Council Novoselsky, $500,000, my recollection, actually dealing with Mayor Ambrosino and knowing the cost of health care, $500,000 seems a very large number for 19 employees, considering that we have a stop-loss carrier. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's $100,000 in which we self-insure. Where are you getting this number?
The numbers came from the insurance committee in the city.
Well, if we're paying that much money for insurance, we need to rethink who we were buying our insurance. That's extremely high. It's higher than anything that's offered in Partners, or for that matter, over at Hallmark. I mean, that is literally the highest that I've ever heard.
Well,
So-
that's something we have to look at, Councilor.
Point of information,
Right now,
Mr.
we have these numbers in front of us.
Point of information, Madam
Councilor
President.
Manasso, state your point.
Point of information very clearly is that we've been meeting for a couple of weeks now in Ways and Means. We met prior to the meeting of the whole this evening to discuss any and all matters relating to the budget. I think any conversation now is much too late. Everybody had an opportunity to appear at these meetings. If they chose not to be there, then they should withhold their questions and take the committee's report as submitted. I duly respect that you honor the works of the subcommittee.
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Chairman.
Madam President, you know, if I may, just for the edification, because we have been in subcommittee, there are some councilors that weren't able to get to, in particular, the earlier meeting where I proposed the cut. The reason behind the cut, just so everybody's aware of it, within a 4-year time span between FY15 and FY18, the budget for health insurance went up just about $1 million. This year, in 1 year alone, we're asking it to go up $2.4 million. That, to me, is unreasonable. And even if you're, I mean, I don't believe it's, you know, I mean, if you have families, you know, maybe it would go up $400,000 with the 19 employees or $375,000. But even with that, $2.4 million to me is excessive. You know, I believe that a premium holiday possibly may have been budgeted in to the overall number, which is ridiculous. $1 million cut would actually lower premiums for our workforce, not increase them. The higher the number, the more they have to pay. So if we cut this by $1 million, employees would actually get a reduction in their health insurance premiums. So I don't want anybody to have any misunderstanding of what that would mean. I just think where it only went up 6% in 4 years and we're giving a 13% increase in 1 year seems extremely unreasonable to me. But again, we voted in subcommittee, it failed. I'm still planning on voting favorably because I believe in it. Anyway, thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilor Zambudo?
Thank you, Madam President. This is I want to say this is the first year. It's one of the first years that I was not a member of the Ways and Means Committee. And so I was not able to vote on this cut tonight, but I would have voted favorably, and I will support this cut because I agree with the logic. Now, I can be proven wrong, and I think if I was, I'm sure there is a way to fund the account in order to make it, but I don't believe we would ever get to the point where this cut would hurt the funding or hurt the pool of money that is needed for insurance. So I would have, if I was on the Ways and Means Committee, I would have supported this cut, and I will support this cut when we vote for it. Thank you.
Councilor Rotundo?
Thank you. I'm very troubled by certain people complaining about having conversation at a council meeting where you're supposed to actually debate issues. Now, that level of...
Madam President,
I
he's a
believe I
member
have
of
the
Ways and
floor.
Means and didn't go to one meeting. Why do we have subcommittee meetings?
Councilor?
If he's going to grandstand during the committee meeting?
Well, with all due respect, Counselor, see, I'm not retired like you, I work. And that's the difference, sir. And, well, you know what? I can still participate by communicating with the chairman, in which I agree with this particular cut, just because you lack the information, or for that matter, the wherewithal to figure out that this $1 million is way, way exorbitant than what should be there, doesn't mean that I can't speak at this council meeting because you're too ignorant to figure that out.
Councilor, that was not appropriate.
Madam President, I was a budget officer at Mass General for 30 years, 41 years.
Guys,
I'm
we're not
well
gonna
qualified to read a budget.
We're not going to get personal. This is inappropriate and completely disrespectful of this body, so please, we're going to end it right now. This is ridiculous. At this time, we're going to continue talking about the budget and this cut. This city council had 4 Ways and Means subcommittee meetings. Mr. Chairman, did you receive any communications written in regarding anything that we discussed in subcommittee that was reported that someone couldn't make it? Were there any communications saying, because I know if I can't make a meeting, I say, Mr. Chairman, here's this report, this is what I think, please, if people are absent, they'll submit things to be read onto the record. Are there any things that were missed that we need to report out?
No, there were no actual reports
Okay.
given, but I was aware of at least 2 meetings when certain councilors could not make it, so...
No problem, and that's
yeah.
life, that happens, we're not gonna
Right.
nitpick that, that's not what we're here to do, completely understood. This time, there's a motion on the floor for the first cut. Madam Clerk, I'm gonna have you read it. Are there any other councilors that have any comments? Nope, roll call.
Shall the city council reduce the group health appropriation on section 1, page 133 by $1 million? Councilor Guanasso?
No.
No. Councilor Keefe?
No.
No. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morabito?
No.
No. Councilor Novoselsky?
No.
No. Councilor Patch?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers?
No.
No. Councilor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino?
No.
No, the cut fails.
Madam Clerk, would you please read the second recommendation of the committee?
Sure. The second recommendation of the committee is as follows. Shall the city council reduce the outside legal services in the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund by $50,000? This is on section 4, page 2. Councilor Guanasso? Oh,
No.
sorry.
We're not going to vote on it yet. I just wanted her to read it to the record so we could have the chairman say the committee report on the second. Hold on 1 second. So the clerk just read the second recommendation of the committee. The chairman's going to let us know what the committee's ruling was on that second recommendation, and then we'll offer it up to the council.
Thank you very much, Madam President. The second cut was approved in subcommittee. I think that given the way the budget has been presented to us this year with several different areas, with outside legal expenses, in the big scheme of things, let's face it, in a $206 million budget, unless we're going to be cutting $1 million like the last proposal, cutting 50,000 really isn't going to make any difference to the taxpayers. But at the same time, I don't think we need to spend an extra 50 cents if it's not warranted. So this is a $50,000 expenditure that I think is unnecessary. We're going to see tonight that there's going to be transfers made if money needs to be spent. But why give the money up front when we don't know that it's even needed yet? So I'm in favor of cutting that an additional $50,000.
And the committee's report?
And the committee ruled favorably on that.
Any councilors have any comments? Any councilors? Going once? Going twice? Roll call?
Shall the city council reduce the outside legal services in the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund by $50,000? Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morabito?
No.
No. Councilor Novoselsky?
No.
No. Counselor Patch?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rotundo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino?
No.
No. That cut has been approved.
Mr. Chairman, any other notes on the budget?
No further modifications, unless members of the council have any questions or need clarification. I would ask a roll call to approve as amended.
If I may just make one point, I just want to make a comment on behalf of the council. I will say, Chairman Rizzo, you had some really great subcommittees. I want to thank you for your service doing that. It was great to see all of our department heads up here and for them to take the time to be a part of our meetings. I want to thank the mayor and his office for presenting a really lean budget that I think was really organized and easy to follow through. And I think the collaboration on behalf of everyone in the city to get this to this point is really something that we should be proud of. And I'm happy that we're here and it was as smooth as possible. So thank you all. Madam Clerk.
Whereas pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 32, the mayor submitted a proposed budget for fiscal year 2019 to the City Council on June 11th, 2018. And whereas the City Council held advertised public hearings to consider the proposed budget on June 12th and any other dates necessary, as advertised in the public hearing notice. And whereas upon motion, the City Council accepted the budget as submitted by the mayor after reductions otherwise separately voted, if any. Now therefore, be it voted by the City Council of the City of Revere that the City Council of the City of Revere hereby adopts and approves the budget for FY19, the sum of $192,676,571, which sum shall be appropriated and raised by taxation and other sources as listed below. Councilor Guanasso.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo? Yes. Councilor Rotundo? Yes. Yes. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino?
Yes.
Yes, the FY19 budget has been approved as amended.
At this time, we are going to continue some items on the Ways and Means Subcommittee report that we did not get to complete during subcommittee. So I'm going to open it up to Chairman Rizzo to follow through the rest of his agenda.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I'll take them in no particular order. The first one is bring it outside. The first one is relevant to a free cash appropriation to the Workers' Compensation Insurance Fund. Rich, if you wouldn't mind.
Thank you, Councilor. Rich Viskey, City Auditor, Budget Director. As part of the fiscal year 19 budget, before you is a law that you'd adopt to create a workers' compensation insurance fund. That would allow us to appropriate this free cash into that insurance fund, pay all of our workers' compensation claims, unemployment, et cetera, for city employees through that fund, and it would just allow a cleaner mechanism to account for the inflows and outflows. So I respectfully ask that you approve this appropriation. Happy to answer any questions.
Madam President, if I may, so the appropriation requests from free cash, one of those goes to the OPEB Liability Trust Fund, correct?
That's correct.
And that would be to fund health insurance benefits?
Yeah, OPEB acronym stands for Other Post-Employment Benefits. It's basically the other arm of the liability of the retirees. You're pretty well aware of the pension liability. This is the cost of funding health insurance. So bond rating agencies and such are starting to look for cities and towns to fund this. It's part of our audited financial statements now. They show that liability. So we've gained some positive representation if we start to fund that, as well as the ability to assume an 8% interest rate on return, which will actually eventually lower that liability. So it's a good start, and hopefully we can continue that trend as we go through the year. But this will be the first creation and appropriation to that fund.
Thank you very much. Well, this is technically we're in subcommittee, so I know that we had approved prior to this an appropriation to cover the FY18 snow and ice, the special events for the Columbus Day Parade and Sandcastle event. So I guess I would take a roll call.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just a quick point. We did the Columbus Day Parade, and I believe, what was the second? The Sandcastles, the snow and ice we did not take up. So this would be to cover workers' comp, tax title, sick leave buyback, OPEB, and snow and ice.
Okay.
So, well, this would be 2 votes. It'd be 1 vote to establish the fund and then a second to transfer the funds. They could be taken up all at once, or if any councils object to any, we could take them out separately.
I have no objection to taking them up all at once, unless members of the Ways and Means Committee have issue with that.
So I'll call for a roll call to create the funds first.
Shall the City Council accept the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 13C, for the purpose of creating a workers' compensation insurance fund? Councilor Guanasso.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Zambudo.
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino.
Yes.
Yes, the law has been accepted. And the second vote, shall the City Council approve several transfers from general fund free cash as follows: $400,000 to the Workers' Compensation Insurance Fund, $200,000 to the Tax Title Revolving Fund, $425,000 to the Sick Leave Buyback Stabilization Fund, $250,000 to the OPEB Liability Trust Fund, and $630,000 to the FY 2018 Snow and Ice Deficit. Councilor Guanasso.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Zambudo.
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino.
Yes.
Yes, the free cash transfers have been approved.
Madam President? Next item on the agenda would be the Solid Waste Recycling Enterprise Fund. Well, whereas we just passed the budget, I think we're going a little bit in reverse here, but we can, certainly take this up, and I don't have a problem with it. If any councilors have issue with this enterprise fund, be happy to take any questions in committee here. But other than that, I don't have any issues at all.
I don't see any hands, so at this time, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll. Calendar item 20.
Shall the City Council accept the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F and a half, to establish a solid waste recycling enterprise fund as of July 1st, 2018, for the purpose of the collection and disposal of solid waste and recycling material in the city? Councilor Guanasso.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Zambudo.
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino. Yes, the fund has been established.
Madam President, next order of business is the ETP grant awards. There were 4 separate $2,000 scholarships. They were given to Taylor Giuffre Catalano, Elizabeth Damano, Shauna Braid, and Sarah Mejia. Unless there's any objection from members of the Ways and Means Committee, I'd like to offer it up for a vote.
Again, I see no hands. Madam Clerk?
Shall the City Council approve the expenditure of $8,000 from the ETP fund for 4 ETP scholarships? Councilor Guanasso.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Zambudo.
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino. Yes, the transfers have been approved.
So we have loan orders that we need to discuss, but I think we're going to do that later on with CDM Smith, I believe. Are we going to bring those up now?
I believe we're in Ways and Means, we might as well just finish it. Let's take up calendar item, or Ways and Means calendar item number 2, loan order in the amount of $3 million for Oak Island water and sewer main improvements. And at this time, I know CDM had a pretty in-depth presentation planned. The chairman and I discussed that we're here just to have them answer some facts, so we're going to limit the presentation and just have them available to answer any facts and figures that this body and the Ways and Means Subcommittee have. So at this time, I guess we'll start, again, I'm not going to do a full in-depth presentation on every item, so I'll open it up to the chairman if you have any questions,
Okay.
and then you can open it up to the committee and the body if they have any questions on this loan order, and we'll do that through each item.
Okay. Thank you very much, Madam President. So there are several loan orders, and to be honest, and I don't know if anybody's going to express the same feelings that I have, but this seems to be an annual thing where we get this and we're required to vote on it before the end of the fiscal year. I know technically it's not till July 15th, but as a practical matter, we pass the budget by June 30th, and this is always put in our lap a week before, and it's not as though we're talking about small amounts of money. We're totaling $6, $7, $8 million here. So I know some of my colleagues have expressed some dissatisfaction with that. You know, I do understand that there's some debt forgiveness and some other, technicalities that come along with this, but, it is a little frustrating that we can't hear and have a little more time to consider before voting on these loan orders. So the first one is the Phase 10 field investigations, the INI and IDDE. It's a loan order in the amount of $1 million, and it's for field investigations, inflow and infiltration, and illicit discharge detection. Again, it is for $1 million, and if anyone has questions pertaining to this $1 million loan order, I see Bob Button from CDM Smith here. I'm sure he can answer questions to that. Through you, Madam President, I'll open it up to members of the committee or members of the council as a whole.
Councilor Pash?
Thank you, Madam President. Actually, it's a figure over 11, I believe 11 million. I just want to say that I've been doing this now for 11 years, and it's the same thing every year. They come in and CDM Smith, first of all, I don't know how they worked their way in. They did a program manager's design, and they control and oversight the whole program, the whole $11+ million. I've been asking for the last several years for figures. We get great presentations, nice pictures, but I want to see some figures of how much money CDM Smith has gotten. I believe they've been here since probably 2003 or 4, I don't know. I got here in 2008. I ask for it every year, and again, I asked for it at the last Ways and Means Committee. Do you have any figures for us?
Good evening, councilors. Robert Button, CDM Smith, 75 State Street in Boston. I did hand out a package of information, and in attachment B at the end is a list of all the projects that we've undertaken through the consent decree. So I did, in response to your question, listed all the construction contracts and the values and the contractor that did the work, what their status is, and then the locations in the city that they were completed, either in a specific ward or on a citywide basis. So we did put a summary together. In addition to that, Councilor, we've done multiple presentations over the years with information. We've had a water and sewer summit and several public hearings, so I know that in my numerous times before the council, I have presented a lot of that information in the past, and I'm more than happy to discuss it and show it to you now.
Bob, I'm looking for a cash figure. I'm not looking for how many projects you did or how
The
many.
cash is there as well, Council.
Is cash? I don't see any cash figures there.
In the third column over, all the contract values are there and totaled.
Now, this is the money, this is the money of the project or the money that goes to CDM
It's the money of the
Smith?
construction project. Police details and the other costs aren't in there, but I can get that information and provide it to
Well,
you.
that's what I asked. I asked for. I want the money that your company is getting for the last, how many years you've been doing this?
I think this is my 9th year, Counselor. We started in 2007, working on the administrative order with the GIS system and the city collector treasurer at the time.
So that's 12 years.
Not
12
11 years, yeah.
11 years?
Yeah.
And again, I understand the construction, you know, the job has to be done because of the decree from the EPA. But your company gets to be a program manager, right? You design it, and you control and oversight it. Nobody's watching you.
I would-
The first, let me finish.
Sure.
The first, when I was first here with Mayor Ambasino, and then following with Mayor Rizzo, there was one or two other outfits like yours that were involved. But you're the only one now left doing this. And I just can't understand how, over the years, there's such a large sum of money that's our taxpayers' money is put in your hands, and we don't know how much, you know, you're spending. And I don't think that's right. And I don't think my colleagues should even vote for any of these loan matters. I think it's time to put a stop to this.
So I would just add that in addition to the public hearings and the presentations that we've had on several occasions over the years, we also have a meeting with the department heads every 2 weeks. And the city oversight, I think, was initiated under Mayor Rizzo's tenure. The city engineer, the public works director, the director of planning, and I believe the council actually made a motion several years ago for that oversight, and we participate in those meetings right in this room twice a month on Thursday mornings at 11 o'clock. So there is a considerable amount of oversight from not only the city, but also the state and the federal government, who review all of the applications that we submit on an annual basis and who review the compliance reports and documents that we submit on behalf of the city.
Well, what's the problem with, why can't we see how much money you're making?
The money is completely, the information is available, Councilor.
Well, I keep asking for it, you never give it to us.
I would disagree, but I can go back and get
I asked for
additional
a lot
information.
of ways and means. That's what I asked you for.
Madam President, may I ask a question in regards to council?
There are some other councilors in order, so I'm taking hands and I'll write them down and we'll get there in order. There are a couple other councilors ahead of you.
All right, I won't take up, you know, I've said the same thing over and over, so I'll
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Rotundo, then Councilor Keefe.
Thank you. Mr. Buttons, when was the last time the EPA has done a review of the city's work and the compliance and the level of compliance? Because when you started, and I remember clearly, we were at $100 million within I believe it was a 10-year period, or actually a 5-year period, and I believe it was bumped out to 10 underneath the Ambrosino administration. You now present us with a document that says that, I believe, $17 million and $35 million plus change, so a total of $52 million. My recollection is the numbers are a lot higher than that. More importantly, as you reiterated to Councilor Patch, you spoke about construction, budgetary compliance, or not budgeted, compliance with one group versus another. But when's the last time you were audited?
So we had a meeting with several members of the city staff the EPA and the Massachusetts DEP up at the Mass DEP in, I believe it was March or April of this year. It was a several-hour meeting with the city's legal representation as well as the EPA and DEP. In addition, every 6 months, as required by the federal court order that you have for compliance under the consent decree, we are required to submit a status report and an update. We've done, I believe, 16 of those so far. So in addition to their review of all the submittals that we make that are required for the funding and approval of the design and approval of the bids that we receive from the contractors, it's a very prescriptive process. We also submit this information to them twice a year.
So again, the issue that I ask you is, when's the last time you've been audited? You're talking about bidding versus being audited. Those are two different things.
Well, I understood your question to be audited relative to this project. In addition, as far as auditing goes...
I'm not talking about audit as in compliance as to the functionality of the project. I want to make clear, I'm talking about the cost. I'm talking about the, checks and balances that we have here in the city of Revere. When we do a budget, we obviously have oversight, and we have, I believe it's Powers and Sullivan, and they do our audit yearly. Yep. Who do you have that yearly does your audit?
I'm not exactly sure of the name, but we do have a federally audited overhead rate, and we do, through our work with other communities and states and the federal government, have that information done on an annual basis.
That's a GOA accountability process.
GSA, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, but that's an accountability process. I'm talking about an audit as far as us giving you money, where is it going, how, those are the things. You're talking about compliance with federal law.
Right.
I'm
You asked me
talking
about an audit. Every single project that we submit, every single loan order is reviewed as part of the compliance process. So the cost of the project, the justification for the cost, the scope of work, what work is being done, where it's being done, that is all audited and reviewed on an annual basis. And actually, when the SRF lists come out, one of the reasons the city has done so well in terms of being provided this funding through the state is because of the information that they review. They rank you against every other community in Massachusetts that applies, and they've ranked the city so high because of the need and the way we've been able to present it, which has helped the city with the funding that's necessary to comply with your consent decree.
And one last thing, my understanding is it's also the aggressiveness in which we're going after the issues. Is that correct or no?
You had a federal court order that required all the work to be done in 13 years, and we believe that was quite onerous. We've worked with the mayor's office, past administrations and this administration. We've been able to get concurrence from the federal government and EPA about extending that decree so that we can spend less money on an annual basis, and that is being worked out with the attorneys right now. We hope to get that finalized and brought to the federal court for approval by the end of the year.
And what about remediating the actual decree itself? We have a new president in office and a new directive. What about remediating what's currently going forward?
We've in fact, included some of that information in our discussions with them. And the real issue is that in addition to the president's administration, again, this has to go before the federal courts. A federal judge has to approve any changes or extensions. And other members of the public with standing, such as Conservation Law Foundation, Save the Harbor, Save the Bay, those types of group can appeal any changes that the federal court decides to make. It's a very serious process. And one of the reasons that we've been able to put the city in a better light than we first were when this administrative order and consent decree was put into place was because of the quality and the quantity of work that's been done. When I first started on this work, there was sewage running down the streets in multiple neighborhoods in the smallest amount of rain. And we've remedied that, and we've done significant other work to make the quality of life and conditions better for folks in the city. And that has helped us with the government in terms of their approval and review of this information and giving the city more time to get the work done.
Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Keith.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, it's Mr. Button. I think, and Mr. Council Patch, I think you were asking, so if so far to date we've spent $35,575,000. What percentage goes to CDM Smith is, I think, the question he's asking. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't sure if you were able to give it, a rough estimate of the percentage of that would go towards CDM
It's
Smith.
typically in the range of 12 to 15% is for oversight work that's, again, required through the SRF program. Depending on the complexity and the length of the project, that number could be a little higher or a little lower, but that's generally the range. And likewise, roughly 15% that goes to police details each year in order to provide a safe working environment for the contractors. And I think one of the benefits of that is significantly more police on the street while the construction activities are happening. I know of one instance on Winthrop Ave when they caught someone doing a house break during the work, and I'm sure there are many others.
Okay. And so, and then just a few other questions, and I guess I would ask also Councilor Rizzo, looking at, this is the scope of work, and you have some projects that have not awarded yet, this April 18th, et cetera, this different dates. This is not the full scope of work. This is just the projected current work. There's going to be more. I mean, if you're talking about a 13-year consent decree, and we still have a few more years to go, this is not all of it, correct?
No, that's correct. This is just the work that's completed to date, and then there's ongoing projects. The two that are on the table that are not awarded yet will be signed and awarded by the end of the week. They're actually down in purchasing right now.
Okay. And then, my only, I guess, to Councilor Rizzo's point, is, not liking to have this put out, so close to the approval time. It almost seems like there's, I'm not saying there's deceit going on, but I personally, I would agree. I would like to have a little bit more time to look at this and discuss it in committee if Councilor Rizzo would have that, if we have that time before the end of the fiscal year. Because there's obviously a lot of concern, and if I was to guess right now, it probably wouldn't pass anyway. So I'm not sure if Councilor Rizzo, you'd want to do that.
Well, clearly when you're voting on, $10, $11 million, I forget, just adding it up quick, I think Councilor Patch actually pointed out it's probably closer to 11 million with all these loan orders. Of course you want more time to discuss it and find out what's necessary and what isn't. I know there's one loan order coming up for $2 million that I've got serious questions pertaining to amnesty, but we'll get to that one. But with this particular one for $1 million, let's face it, when you look at these loan orders and you look at what they're talking about, how many of us, this is for the Phase 10 field investigations, I&I and IDDE. How many of us really know that? We're taking CDM Smith's word that this particular $1 million that we're going to approve is going to be spent the way that it should be. And, short of our city engineer, which I'm sure our city engineer and superintendent of public works must go through these loan orders with you. Is that correct, Bob?
That's absolutely correct. And the law department and the treasurer and the collector and the auditor. We do quite a bit of work with the various department heads.
Okay, so with that being said, we just kind of have to have faith that the different department heads and the professionals that understand are making sure that this money is being spent wisely. When it comes to information, when Councilor Patch wanted information about money being spent, I think that is not an unreasonable request, because we keep approving year after year, 10 million, 11 million, 12 million. And quite honestly, it's hard for me to believe, in all honesty, after all these years, there's only been $35 million that's been spent, where, okay, there's 52 that's been, so there's 17 that's been encumbered, correct? That hasn't actually been spent yet?
Those are previous loan orders that have been approved. That's correct.
Okay. So, in any case, I don't have any more questions on this particular loan order. Madam President, it's up to you if you want to go forward with it.
There are a couple more questions.
Okay.
I'll ask Councilor Zambudo, and then I have one quick comment, and then we'll continue.
Thank you, Madam President. I probably have more of a comment than a question. I'm as frustrated as anybody that we're spending all this money on this consent decree. Unfortunately, we have no choice. Now, we have to ask ourselves, do we trust this company that's managing this program? And I think if you check in the industry, they have a pretty stellar reputation. And I'm comfortable that we're not being taken advantage of. I heard a figure of 12% putting out there for the amount of work that's involved in putting these, just these reports together that have to be submitted to the EPA and the federal government. It's just, it's a tremendous amount of work. So I'm comfortable that this company is not taking advantage of the city. So do I want to keep spending $11 million a year of taxpayer money? Of course not. But we are forced to do this because it's, we've been ordered to do this by the federal government, so we don't have any choice. So the only thing we have to look at is, do we trust the company that's managing this for us? And I do. So I just wanted to make that statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Morbido.
Thank you. I have more of a comment. And I feel the same concerns about having transparency, and I want to see where every dollar is spent. At the end of the day, I echo the same comments as my colleague, Councilor Zambudo. It's about trust, okay? We have a company here that we've been working with for how many years? Has it
It's a
been?
little longer.
7,
Time
8?
is flying. Yeah,
Has it been like 10 years? But, so they've done the work, they've laid out the blueprints, they've detailed the work. End result, if we don't trust them, we get rid of them. What happens if we get rid of them? A new company is going to come in. Feasibility study is conducted. They have to figure out where this company started, where their work ended. So it's kind of a messy situation that we're in if we go to an alternate route. So we got to put that into perspective, but I understand Councilor Patch's concern. He wants to know where the money is. And Mr. Button, I feel when a councilor up here, one of my colleagues, asks for information, they should get it in a timely manner. As far as trust, I feel we've been working, you've been working diligently, and I feel like whenever I ask a question, I receive a reply. So I'm not sure where the lack of communication is with you and my colleague.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Bob, on for these 4 of these loan orders, okay, am I correct to say that like 204 and 205 relate to each other?
That's correct, and those are, just to your point, those are related to water system improvements, drinking water issues out in Oak Island. When those items came up, those are not consent decree required. There's 4 items, as I discussed with the council president earlier. 4 items are required by the consent decree. The Oak Island work is required by the state of the water system and the threat to public safety in that area.
Okay, so the 4405.
With all respect, we're on 4387. The chairman's working his way through each loan order.
43.
I think we started at the bottom and are
Started
working
at
our
the
way
bottom.
up.
So Phase 10 field investigations.
Oh, okay, so that's an investigation portion.
Correct.
Okay,
And-
but all the other ones are basically somehow connected to each other. For the first 4, the last 2 are not.
The first 2 are connected to issues in the water system in Oak Island. The 4, 206, 207, 208, and 209 are all related to consent decree compliance requirements.
Those are investigation portions.
Investigation and construction. What we typically do is we go out and look in specific areas of the city, areas that we've told DEP and EPA that we would look in from year to year, and they've approved, and that the money that we spend on investigations this year then outlines what construction work would be done in the following year.
Thank you very much.
Councilor Marasso.
Thank you, Madam President. In terms of trust, one just needs to know that CDM Smith has worked under 3 administrations within our community. So there's a level of trust given by 3 different mayors, and certainly it leads to the event that we're working with decent people. What I would like to see, Bob, is that, very simply, in summary of these amounts that one asked for, rather than saying simply loan order number, $4 million, $3 million, give a brief summary.
Okay.
And a cost perspective is what's going to take place. And I think that more helps us to make a judgment as to what you're doing with this money. I see here $1 million for Phase 10 field investigations, as Councilor Rizzo alluded. What does that mean to us?
Sure, that's a good question.
Give us a summary of what that means, how you're spending the money, and it doesn't have to be page after page, just a brief summary.
Sure.
And I think our minds will be put at ease.
Thank you for that, and I can absolutely do that. As part of the application process that we go through each year, Counselor, we do describe that information in the application that's submitted to the state.
But when asking for the
When we come
money,
here,
that's
we
the
will.
time that we
Sure.
want to know about it.
The information that's in the loan orders and the resolutions is legalese that we're required to present in order to then borrow the monies. We can add the additional information for you, no problem.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Batch.
Thank you for letting me speak again, Madam President. On this matter of trust, I mean, maybe it's because I was a police officer for 32 years, but after year, not getting my request and not, I actually did a little investigation, and if you Google CDM Smith in Newburyport, town of Newburyport, or even speak to somebody from the town of Malden, you'll see why I don't have too much trust. And that's why I might be wrong. I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong, but I think that I wish when I put in for the state audit that we got it. I don't know why we didn't. The council voted, I believe, 11-0 for the audit. And I just, I have nothing against Bob, and I think he's a great guy. But again, we're talking year after year, millions of dollars. And I think if you go to the internet and just do a little searching on the company, you'll understand why I have some problems here. That's all, and I just want some answers. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other counselors? If I may briefly, Mr. Chairman, I totally agree with my colleague's point that every year when this comes before the council, it's the week or two before the budget's due, and it's we need this right now, and it's a fire alarm every single time. And there's nothing more frustrating being a counselor than feeling like you have your feet to the fire and you have to vote on something right now, because even if you have all the information in the world in front of you, it still doesn't feel like enough. You still want to know. And I think as a city, we're in a very unfortunate situation where this generation is faced with years and years and years and years of neglect to our water and sewer system that we are paying for now that could have been addressed 50 years ago if they'd started with the work that needed to be done, because we're so far behind. But we're here and we're doing it. Mr. Chairman, my thoughts are if the council does not feel comfortable that we vote on calendar items 206, 07, 08, and 09, just because they're, and we can still go through them individually, but those are mandated by the state and the consent decree, and I don't want to see the city face any penalties. But perhaps we can keep the other ones in your committee if you wish to get Councilor Patch's questions answered or any more questions of the committee, and we can take it apart a little more. That's just my opinion as a committee member. But we can continue through, I don't know if you wish to call the roll on the one we're discussing now, or what your committee's report is.
The one we're discussing now, I believe, is
9.
209. Yep. It's okay with me, Madam President.
So on 209, Madam Clerk?
There's two separate roll calls, one for the loan order and the other for the resolution as well. Okay.
So we'll call on first for the loan order.
Shall the City Council approve a loan order in the amount of $1 million for Phase 10 Field Investigations, CWSRF Planning Project, number 4387? Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe?
No.
No. Councilor McKenna? No. Councilor Morabito?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch?
No.
No. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo?
No.
No. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino?
Yes.
Yes. The loan order fails.
Madam President, the next loan order is in the amount of $4.7 million for Phase 9 construction, It addresses infiltration and inflow and illicit discharge detection and elimination. Also, pump stations and drainage. This, I believe, is 208. And it is to rehabilitate sewer lines, pumping stations, and manholes to reduce inflow into the wastewater system. It's also going to help rehabilitate storm drains and pumping stations to improve flood control and/or to reduce the amount of storm water entering the wastewater system, and to complete the capital improvements to stormwater and wastewater pump stations throughout the city. Bob, if there's anything you'd like to add before
No,
councilors ask questions?
the only observation that I would make is relative to all four of these loan orders. The city has represented to EPA and DEP and the government through the plans that we've been submitted that the monies would be appropriated on an annual basis. If the monies aren't appropriated, the city is in jeopardy of being fined on a daily basis by the government, as spelled out in the consent decree. So I just want to reiterate that to the councilors, that it's not something that they take lightly or that will be well received. The city's made many years of progress, and this could potentially be a setback to the city's efforts to date. And I'll answer any other questions that folks have.
Madam President, unless members of the committee or the council have any questions, I'd open it up to a vote.
Looks like I have two counselors on this, three counselors. So we'll do Rotundo, Zambudo, then Keefe.
Madam President, I'd like to rescind my prior vote in order to prevent any type of fine levied on the city.
Madam Clerk? So at this time, we'd have to reconsider the motion, which is calendar item 18209. So we'll call up suspension. Oh, we're under suspension of rules anyway.
Reconsideration of the prior vote, Madam.
Roll call.
Roll call to reconsider the prior matter. Council Order 18-209. Councilor Guanasso? Yes. Councilor Keefe? No. Councilor McKenna? Yes. Councilor Morbido? Yes. Councilor Novoselsky? Yes. Councilor Patch? No. Councilor Powers? Yes. Councilor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Zambudo? Yes. And Council President Janino? Yes, the loan order will be reconsidered.
Back to item 208.
Madam President, on this particular item, Mr. Buttons, we have 1, 2, 3. How many pumping stations within the city? I see them here in the GIS. We've got Dick Street, we have Furlong Drive, Revere Beach, Parkway Storm Pump Station. My understanding is we also have one up at the Point of Pines, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So which one of these, because some of them are relatively new, 2014, 2013. Is this maintenance that we're talking about, or are we, what are we talking about?
So we've basically replaced or rehabilitated, I think it's 13 wastewater pump stations and 6 or 8 stormwater stations. There's right around 20 that the city has.
Right.
Part of what we do in the loan approvals is, and this is actually part of the Beachmont project, there's a couple of additional pump stations that will be needed in order to complete the work. So this is for either new sanitary sewer or stormwater stations that are required based on the investigations and the work that we've done to fix the sewer system. There are several areas of the city where the topography, the hills, or the low-lying areas that in some cases are even below the ocean require a more aggressive approach to getting the wastewater or the stormwater out, and that is through pump station work.
Thank you.
Councilor Zambudo, followed by Councilor Keefe.
Thank you. I think we have to go back to the first vote, but I guess, my colleague kind of made my point for me by rescinding his vote. This is not something we like to do. We're under a consent decree, and we really need to pass these things. So we don't have a choice. You can be upset about it, but please don't jeopardize the taxpayer. Thank you.
Counselor?
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to make it clear that I have no intention of jeopardizing the city in any way, shape, or form. But at the beginning of this quasi-subcommittee meeting, you know, the chairman of the committee is telling us that he would like to see more time to get this discussed. And I'm hoping, and I had asked, I voted before the end of the road over here, and I was hoping that we would have more time to discuss, and that's why I voted no. I'm not looking to jeopardize the city, but, you know, if we're going to play devil's advocate, then, you know, let's just do it. And that's how I stand. And that doesn't mean anything, you know, but this is, like I said, it's an offsetting Ways and Means Subcommittee. I was going off the recommendation of the chair of the Ways and Means Subcommittee. That's where my vote lies.
Madam President, if I could just clarify for Councilor Keefe, you're 100% right. I would like more time to look at this. The situation is, this needs to be approved by July 15th, and we don't have a meeting scheduled until July 23rd, so...
Point of information.
Good
It has
point.
to be approved by June 30th.
Yeah.
So even if we had another meeting next Monday, it'd be too late.
I thought you said, I thought it said somewhere in
No,
here...
it's June 30th by the SRF regulations.
June 30th.
Counselor.
So this is the
June,
physical last
okay.
city council meeting that we could have
Okay,
regardless.
so it's even more critical that we vote now. I was under the impression we had till July 15th, but if it's June 30th, then we, you know, it's either we're going to not approve it and subject ourselves to potential fines, or not being able to take advantage of the Clean Water Revolving Fund, and the, you know, maybe even some forgiveness, some debt forgiveness, which I'd like to know at some point. I'm not trying to jump in and not take my turn here, but I'd like to know what we're getting in terms of forgiveness, debt forgiveness at the end of all of this, and where those dollars are, and how the city receives them. But that's to answer your question, Councilor.
Thank you, Councilor Rizzo. And just to that point, typically when I don't know a lot about a subject, I try and err on the side of the head of the committee's thought process. So I was under the impression that that was the direction you wanted to go, but I will heed towards your advice. Thank you very much.
Just a quick point of information to my colleagues to reiterate the conversation that me and the chairman had. I believe we're going to focus, since 206, 7, 8, and 9 are time sensitive, let's try to keep our comments centered around these items. We're currently, again, on just 207, so if we can keep our comments centered to that. Any other loan orders will go to committee so we can discuss them further. We're not, I mean, obviously it affects the city if we don't vote on it right away, but we're not in a rush as we are for these. So let's focus on this. We're on 207.
209?
No, we voted on 209. Oh. So we're technically still under 209. Or on 209?
I believe, Madam President, we're on 208 right now.
That's what I thought, but we rescinded it, so we're back to 209.
Oh, so we're going to vote on
Yes.
209 again?
I was
Okay.
confused as well, so we're currently on 209. Any counselors on 209? I'll ask Counselor McKenna for her comment, and
Thank you,
then
Madam
we'll have
President.
to recall the vote on
So
209.
if this is the same pattern every single year, I don't know if I can make an amendment that he comes to the Chamber Council earlier, because this happens every year, and we're on a deadline, and we don't have time to discuss it. And as my fellow counselor on my right said, you know, he just wants the information. But we don't have the information because Saturday is the 30th, and we can't meet. So I'm going to ask this committee can we amend that he comes before, while we're doing the budget? And I don't know how to
Counselor?
approach that, but
You can't amend a loan order, however, you
Okay.
could do a verbal motion. Let's get through the committee, and then you can offer a verbal motion at the end.
okay.
Okay? Again, on this item, let's discuss the rescinded vote, so we're going to take back up 209. Madam Clerk?
Shall the City Council approve a loan order in the amount of $1 million for Phase 10 Field Investigations, CWSRF Planning Project Number 4387? Counselor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morabito?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Patch?
No.
No. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rotundo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes, and Council President Janino?
Yes.
Yes, the loan order has been approved. And there also needs to be a resolution voted on.
Roll call on the resolution?
Shall the City Council approve the resolution for CWSRF Planning Project number 4387? Counselor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Patch?
No.
No. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rotundo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino?
Yes.
Yes, the resolution has been approved.
All right, Mr. Chairman, on 18-208, are there any other comments of the chairman or any members of the committee of the whole on 208? Anyone? Going once? Nope.
Madam President, I just, Bob, I did read for the edification of the council the work that was going to be done, but again, this is close to $5 million, so can you just give us a little insight, what we're getting for our $5 million?
Sure.
Without going into too much detail, I
Absolutely.
understand that we have other loan orders and public hearings, but...
Sure. Absolutely, I absolutely can. The work for 2019 construction has to do with pipelining work in the West Revere area as well as the Beachmont area, as well as some inflow removal projects that are sort of citywide. So we're focusing in two areas for construction, and then there are other portions of the work that are ongoing throughout the city. But the majority of our work will be in the West Revere and Beachmont, Shirley Ave areas.
Any other members of the city council? Madam Clerk, if you call the roll first on 208 for the loan order?
Shall the City Council approve a loan order in the amount of $4.7 million for Phase 9 construction, infiltration, inflow, illicit discharge, detection and elimination, pump station and drainage, CWSRF construction project number 4440? Counselor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Patch?
No.
No. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rotundo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino?
Yes.
Yes, the loan order has been approved.
On the resolution?
Shall the City Council approve the resolution for CWSRF construction project number 4440? Counselor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Patch?
No.
No. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rotundo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino?
Yes.
Yes, the resolution has been approved.
Mr. Chairman, 206?
7.
207.
Madam President, on 207, it is a $500,000 loan order for illicit connection detection and sump pump investigations for the purposes of investigating and eliminating illicit connections, and to develop and implement a house-to-house inspection program for the purpose of identifying sump pumps for the removal or redirection. If I may, Madam President, just to follow up on something that you said, and I think it's very important for all of us up here to recognize, and certainly for the public to recognize, and that is, this was a consent decree that was handed down to us by the Department of Justice back, I believe, in 2004 or 2005. It's not something that we requested. We didn't ask for it, but we were forced into it after decades of neglect. And so it just landed in our laps, and now, unfortunately, it's in the laps of every ratepayer here in the city. So we're just trying to do our part up here and making sure that, we're taking advantage of every low-interest loan that we can, and as we mentioned before, see what kind of debt forgiveness that we can get so we can comply with the Department of Justice. I know during my term in office as mayor, we went as far as visiting with our congressional delegation, with the EPA, with members of the DEP to try to extend that consent decree, and I believe we've had some luck with that. I haven't seen anything formalized yet, but I believe that in my conversations since leaving office that we did make an impact and that we were going to be able to slow this down at some point. But you got to remember, back at that time, we were having dry weather events. I mean, no rain at all, and we would have discharge of sewers in the middle of the street. So that's how bad and dire our situation was. And so while none of us want to have to sit here and approve this type of money to fix our water and sewer systems and our stormwater drain systems, you know, it's something that we really have to do, number one, legally, and really it's an obligation we have to maintain our community and our public health. So I just wanted to follow up on Council President Janino's comments about how this is after decades of neglect. So, and again, this particular loan order is for $500,000. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any committee of the whole members' comments on this loan order? Madam Clerk, on the loan order.
Shall the City Council approve a loan order in the amount of $500,000 for the illicit connection detection and sump pump investigations, CWSRF Planning Project number 4386? Councilor Guanasso.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch.
No.
No. Councilor Powers.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Zambudo.
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino.
Yes.
Yes, the loan order has been approved.
On the resolution.
Shall the City Council approve the resolution for CWSRF Planning Project, Planning Project number 4386? Councilor Guanasso.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch.
No.
No. Councilor Powers.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Zambudo.
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino. Yes, the resolution has been approved.
Madam President,
Mr. Chairman.
206.
Yes.
Any comments?
This is a request for a loan order in the amount of $2 million for the illicit connection and sump pump removal program. I believe, Bob, this is otherwise known as the amnesty program?
Yeah, it's the sump pump program. On a portion of the work under the sump pump, we did provide amnesty to residents that came before us by, I think it was December 31st of 2015. People who get onto the list after that, generally speaking, aren't eligible for the amnesty program. And the only exception to that would be in areas where the city is doing some paving and some other work where we don't want people coming back in and doing it on their own and ripping up, streets that the city's just paved, or where you're doing other projects. We have done some work in owner-occupied homes. It's just a benefit to the city. There's in the presentation that I handed out, there's some information on the amount of water that's generated by sump pumps based on DEP calculations. It's about in the middle of the project. And for just 28 homes, it adds 1 million gallons a month of wastewater to the system that the city then has to pay MWRA for treatment. So in addition to getting out water that you shouldn't be paying for and shouldn't be treating in the first place, if we don't do that, some of the pipes in the city aren't large enough to convey that water, and there's too much water. And the offset to taking out the pumps would be building large storage tanks, underground storage tanks, or multi-foot diameter pipes so that you could store that water and then pay to treat it afterwards. So the real benefit to the city, regardless of whether it's amnesty or not, is to get that flow out, because it'll cost you more if you don't in the grand scheme of the cost of the construction work. And with respect to the amnesty, out of the illegal properties, there's 376 right now that we know need to be addressed. Roughly 188 of those are folks in the amnesty program, and only 133 are folks that aren't in the amnesty. So there is a small amount of work that's being done, non-amnesty, but the majority of the work that we've done so far has been for people that stepped forward before that deadline. And I would also say that, it's, again, in the presentation, the page that looks like this that has the sump pump on it. It lists 10,073 properties in the city that we've done preliminary inspections in. The majority of them, people wouldn't let us in every home, but in many we have. And the good news is roughly 70% of the properties we're finding either have no sump pump or they have legal sump pumps that are properly connected. So I think we're finding less than we had originally thought we might find. And right now there is 800 that need to be addressed. And out of that 800, 444 have been completed. And there's another 286 that are ongoing this year. So we're making great progress, and we would hope that we would be able to significantly back off and eliminate this borrowing over the next several years. There'll always be a few that need to be done, but we've made great progress with them so far.
Madam President, this is where, like, this is one loan order that I have serious questions on, because we've approved similar amounts for this, and I'll call it an amnesty program. This is money that is being spent to remove illicit connections, right? And, you know, so these illicit connections would be on individual property owners' property. This isn't on public ways. We're talking about to remove these illicit connections. At least that's the way I'm reading this loan order.
Many of them are on private property. We do pick up catch basins and some other city drainage as part of this work, so we do fix city infrastructure as well as private property, but you are correct.
We have city that's illegally discharging.
And in fact, again, in the pictures that I've sent, right behind that, here's a smoke test where we put smoke into the sewer system, and it's coming out a catch basin, which is supposed to be part of your drainage system. So in addition to doing work in homes, we also are trying, when we find them, to correct problems that the city has with these connections as well.
I can't imagine, well, it's beyond my imagination how our own city could install a catch basin and tie into the sewer system. I don't know how that could
Some of
possibly
them
happen.
date back to the 50s, 60s, and early, before 72 when the Clean Water Act was installed. Other ones that we found were constructed within the last several years, and I'm not sure.
But even if that's the case, Bob, even if that's the case, $2 million, and I mean, I know when I bought my house, I was tied into the sewer system, unfortunately, through no fault of our own. It just happened to be tied into, and we had it replaced on our own, through no amnesty or anything. But it wasn't that significant of a job, just to route the sump pump out of our house, and not into the sewer system. $2 million, I don't know how many houses that can do, but it's way more, it seems, than what you're going to be taken care of. And it's a little, I'm not really sure how to think about this, because if it is primarily private properties, some people get amnesty and some people don't. And I understand some people, but why would we spend any money to go in? I mean, if they're not on amnesty, then that should be it. Then it's on the homeowner at that point. So why are we bonding for $2 million for, I don't know how many homes would fall into that category, while we've already bonded millions of dollars over the years?
So let me start with the first in terms of the properties themselves. You're right that if you just were to disconnect the pipe and splash it in your yard, and if you had enough lawn area, for example, to do that, that is a very easy fix. And in certain areas of the city, we've been able to do that very successfully. In many other areas of the city, it's so densely compact, together, if you will, and the houses are right on top of each other, that those areas don't have the benefit of a lawn in order to then discharge the water not into the stormwater system. And there was some concerns with a few homes last winter with icing that occurred on the sidewalks, so we don't want to have water just running out across the sidewalks and creating public safety issues. So in addition to disconnecting the home in those areas, in many cases we have to add additional feet of drainage pipe in the city street so that we can hard pipe those connections into a drain and the water will be carried away safely. So part of the cost isn't just the disconnection, but it's giving the residents an actual place to connect to that is appropriate.
And how many homes have you had to do that to?
Boy, I'd have to, probably on the order of 3/4 of the houses that we've done so far, and if not all, the majority of the 286 that I've put forward, that that are ongoing construction.
So 3/4 of the amnesty that we're giving out is where we're getting drain layers and have to dig up and put it out to the street?
Because in many streets, all up off of Squire Road, up in the northwest Revere area, there is no drainage in the streets, and you can't just allow it to run across the sidewalk and down the road. The engineering and DPW departments have actually directed us to install the drainage as part of the proper connections.
Well, Madam President, this is what, only because we approved this, I think it's the same amount every single year for this amnesty program, and it just seems like an exorbitant amount of money. And the amnesty, apparently, from what I understand, there's a date, and then after that, there's no more amnesty.
Right.
And we're just approving and approving and approving. This is one I have an issue with, to be quite honest with you. It's millions of dollars that the ratepayers have to pick up for other people's issues that didn't sign up in time for amnesty. Well, that's not their problem. They've done what they've had to do. They're doing the right things, and I don't think that the ratepayers that are doing the right things ought to be penalized by paying a $2 million loan because they haven't been in compliance. I don't know. I just have big issues with this $2 million loan.
If I could just clarify one point or 2 points, the issue with the amnesty program was that was a date by which the homeowner had to notify the city that they had a sump pump and they wanted an inspection done. As I said before, we've gone out and looked at about 10,500 properties.
Right.
Then what we've been trying to do is lump those projects together so that the requirement for the amnesty program was to notify us by that date. In several instances, we couldn't fix, all 2,000 of them, if you will, in 1 year. So we're now going forward systematically and fixing 150 to 200 of those on an annual basis until we're done with them all. So you are correct that you have appropriated the money in the past. What it's allowed us to do is do a certain amount of them every year. That's why we have almost 500 done so far and another 286 in construction. It's just the way the process works. It's not reappropriating money for the same thing. It's doing similar work at different locations.
Okay, I don't want to belabor this, Madam President. So you're talking 700 that the city has paid for to correct, and you've got another 286, something like that?
It's roughly 1,000, that's correct.
Close to 1,000 homes that the city has paid for to take care of?
And if we didn't do that, again, the issue would be that the water would be in the sewer system, and the city would face similar, if not higher costs to actually make your sewer pipes bigger. And then every single day that water goes into the MWRA sewer, you're paying a sewer charge, and you're not generating a water fee for it, so
Okay.
that you're effectively subsidizing the cost of all that water every single day that they operate.
But I'll just say this. If there's 1,000, we'll round it off to 1,000. If there's 1,000 homes that you've had to do, and it's $2,000 per home, which I know I didn't pay $2,000 for my system, that's only $2 million right there. That's not $2 million this year, $2 million last year, $2 million the year before, $2 million. It goes on and on and on. It just seems like this particular program is just perpetuating itself at the expense of the ratepayers, and I don't think I don't think it's right. I don't know if any of my colleagues feel the same way, but that's how I feel.
I'll ask Councilor Rotundo, followed by Councilor Zambudo. Anyone on this side?
Thank you, Madam President. I believe it was last year you were here asking the same thing with Nick Rystrom. And I asked you the question. In fact, I asked Nick the question, can you give me an exact number? And I was told, no, they couldn't give me an exact number. But to dedicate this amount of money for these particular pumps to be worked on. And now you're telling me, and correct me if I'm wrong, if maybe I misheard you, that you're giving a lump sum of money to get a certain amount of these pumps corrected, and there's a portion of them that you're unable to get to. So what do you do with the unused portion of the money that we dedicated to you last year?
So it doesn't get dedicated to us, Councilor. It gets dedicated to construction. So this is actually to fund construction projects. Those projects then get put out to bid, and every year when the bids come in, we've been very successful in actually the bids coming in less than appropriated. So when you look back at the various loan orders, we make an estimate as to the number of properties that we're going to address, the cost of the additional drainage, because it's not just the house disconnect, but it could be 300 or 400 feet of drainage on a particular street, catch basins and whatnot to give them a place to connect to. All of that cost goes into the cost of this type of work.
So I'm going to look up that particular meeting when Nick Reichman was here and you were here.
Yep.
And my recollection distinctly was me asking, what do you do with that unused portion? Because you cannot tell me exactly how many, and I voted against it actually, how many pumps you're going to fix. And there was no ballpark number. You said just dedicate this amount of money in the event that we need to use it all. And now you're coming back and you're saying something different.
Well, every single year, the way the process works is that a certain amount is appropriated, so you have enough to go out to bid. Then you go out to bid, and the bid numbers are what you actually borrow. So when you look through the analysis of every single year, in most of the cases with the construction work, except for a couple of years where we added in extra work, we haven't always reached the limit of the
So we're bonding out
appropriation.
right now for $2 million, correct?
What you do is you approve the borrowing now, and then it goes through a process of review with the state and the application. And
Under
then when we
30B.
put it out to bid, it also gets reviewed, and the bids are reviewed, and then the money's approved, and then the city signs
Like
off
a
on the
revolving
actual
fund.
borrowing.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Councilor Zambudo.
So, Madam President, so I'm just trying to get this to its likely end. The bottom line is if we don't do this work that's created by repairing these sump pumps and restructuring the drainage, whatever it takes in construction to do that, we're going to pay for it in the assessment of MWRA and with no way to recoup it. So, you know, as painful as it is to vote for $2 million, it's just like the rest of these loan orders. We really need to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. If I may, I just have one quick question.
Absolutely.
When did the amnesty program end? I thought it was like 2 or 3 years ago.
It was December of 2015, I believe,
That's what I
Counselor,
thought.
was the date, but again, that was
These are
just...
still orders that came in within that time frame that we haven't
Correct.
scheduled out yet.
Right,
Okay.
because we couldn't do all 1,000 of them in one
Of
year
course.
after that.
All right, that makes me feel a little better. So the program is over. These are basically filling the back order of jobs that came to be after that program was launched. So that makes me feel slightly better about it. It's still not good, but
Madam President, maybe I'd like to see, I'm sure we must be able to document which properties have been done and how much each job for each property has been spent. And I'd also like to know how much money that the city has spent, the ratepayers have spent cumulatively on loan orders like this that pertain to going onto private property and removing illicit connections.
I see Bob taking notes, so I think we're good with that.
Sure,
think we'd
and
be
I
happy
could
to- yeah.
just point out to you, Counselor, that when you look at the ward maps that are created, these blocks right here are the properties, so we use the GIS system to show where the work is done, so we can certainly provide lists and that information and cost per contract if you're interested in it. But all of you, for your wards and for citywide, can see where and how many of these we've
Yeah,
done.
I just want to know, because again, this isn't a first time the city council voted on this $2 million. I don't know the last 2 years what's been voted on, but I know in years prior to that, we've been voting $2 million, $2 million, $2 million, $2 million, and I just don't see us, even if there's 1,000 properties, spending, I'm not sure how many millions that we have allocated and spent on this, so, thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, Madam Clerk, on calendar item number 4, or subcommittee calendar item number 4, so 18206.
Shall the City Council approve a loan order in the amount of $2 million for illicit connection and sump pump removal program, CWSRF construction project number 4439? Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch?
No.
No. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo?
No.
No. Councilor Rotundo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino?
Yes.
Yes, the loan order has been approved.
On the resolution?
Shall the City Council approve the resolution for CWSRF construction project number 4439? Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Patch?
No.
No. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rizzo?
No.
No. Counselor Rotundo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Zambuto?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino?
Yes.
Yes, the resolution has been approved.
Madam President,
Counselor?
we still have 204 and 205. I don't know if it's the will of you and the rest of the council to take these up or leave them in committee.
If I may, Madam President, these aren't requirements of the consent decree, but the SRF funding program is an annual process. If the council doesn't vote to approve these by June 30th, we would lose the funding for the entire year and would have to come back at some point next year in order to be able to access the SRF funds. It's an annual process. It's not a running process. So at the will of the council, I just point that out to everyone.
Sure. So if that's the case,
I
might as well.
move that we approve these.
All right. We'll start with
How
two,
convenient.
what was that?
Said, how convenient.
Madam President, I have some questions.
All right, so what we're going to do, counselors, we're going to take them up one at a time. So I guess since they're so similar in nature, we can entertain questions for 204 and 205 at the same time, but they will be separate votes. So I'll defer to the ward counselor first, and then we will open it up.
Madam President, point of order, information.
Counselor?
Hearing some of the concerns of my councilors to my right as well as my own, we need to mandate a process in which this information gets to us in advance so that people can deliberate on it appropriately, more than the time that we've been given,
And
apparently.
Counselor McKenna has a verbal motion coming up for that at the end of this whole process that I'll be helping her put forward. Counselor Powers?
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Button, I have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
The work being done in the Oak Island section, do you have any, can you give me the names of any of the streets that are being done?
Yes, so if I may, Counselor, we handed out this map to you here, right?
Okay.
And there's two issues, two areas that we're focusing on. The lines that are shown in yellow are redundancy, where into the Oak Island area, currently, there's only one pipe that goes under the railroad tracks.
That's correct.
So if that was to fail, that entire neighborhood would be without potable drinking water for a considerable amount of time, because there's only one pipe that connects to that neighborhood. So the proposal is to add a second pipe under the railroad track and loop the water system in that area, so that would happen both in the Oak Island area as well as out heading to the Point of Pines. There's only one line in the boulevard. We would put a second line back in North Shore Road to loop and provide additional pressure to those areas. With respect to the additional streets in those neighborhoods, as we had spoke before, several of the pipes are 6 inches in diameter. They're very small, and they're also tuberculated. They're full of mineral deposits. So part of the process through the planning and the design work would be to look at whether or not those pipes would be candidates to reline, to line in place without having to dig up,
Or replace.
or we'd have to replace them. And my sense is to you that any street that has a 6-inch pipe, that's not adequate. We'd have to replace them. And that if there's anything that's 8 or 12 inches, we could look at potentially lining or rehabilitating that as a way of reducing costs. But because of the sensitivity to firefighting and pressure in those areas, we really need to make sure the entire system will work.
You know, we're talking about, there's two sections of Oak Island, as I'm sure you're aware of. Okay, are we talking about the Flynn Street, Putnam, Maggie Road, Woodland Road, that area? That's
On the back side of
That's on the
the...
westerly side of the tracks.
Correct, yeah, that's what we're looking at, is predominantly in that area. There may be a little bit of additional work in the Point of Pines, but the majority of the pipe replacement in the streets would be in that area,
And
yes.
this line you're talking about is running from approximately where the Wharf Restaurant is, am I correct?
That's correct, yes.
Down into the Pines.
Correct, that's the second longer yellow line that we're showing on the
That's
map.
going to increase the water pressure?
It'll increase the water pressure, and it'll also increase the volume of water, the amount of water that's available, because the singular pipe that's there now, if it ever were to break going out to that neighborhood, you could have problems as well. There isn't a railroad track cutting it off, so it could be addressed sooner, but it's still an issue with water quality and pressure for firefighting.
Now, what do? Jack under the tracks?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So right now, if that line were to go down for some reason, the existing line,
and you had a fire down there, you'd have a serious problem.
Absolutely. And if it
Very
were to go
serious
down,
problem.
you could be facing weeks or months before we could get the approvals, because you can't run a temporary pipe over the railroad tracks.
Yep.
We would obviously have to find some way to provide water, and that would not happen overnight.
Okay, now, and the other question is, are we talking about Argyle, York, Ellerton, or Arcadia Streets, which would be on the easterly side of North Shore Road?
I'm not 100% certain if those need to be replaced, Counselor. I can look at those street names and get back to you on that.
I would
I'm not
appreciate
familiar
it
with
if you
those.
would, okay?
Yeah. Yes, I will.
Okay, that's basically all my questions.
Any other counselors? Anyone else wishing to speak?
Oh, sorry.
Eric Lampadecchio, 43 Tapley Avenue. Just a question for you, sir. You mentioned water quality in Oak Island. You mentioned that several times up here.
Yep.
Can you confirm that the water quality is safe to drink at this time?
Yes, based on the testing and the information that the city does and the MWRA does, it is safe to drink at this time. Because of the tuberculation and the other problems in the water line, it could become a problem in the future, and it's the right thing to do for the water system to replace the pipes. Sure.
I've seen some of the pipes that you've taken out down on Sagamore Street and Neponset Street and that area down there, and they're just loaded with, look to me like dirt.
It's minerals and whatnot that deposit in the old cast iron pipes, and it's much like hardening of your arteries, where your arteries just constrict to the point where the blood won't flow through. It's a similar idea on a much larger scale.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam President.
Mr. Chairman, do you have any other comments on 204 or 205, or we can take them up one after another?
No questions on either one of those.
All right. If you guys could shut your mics off so they can vote. Thank you. Madam Clerk, we'll start with 204. Call the roll, please.
Shall the City Council approve a loan order in the amount of $3 million for Oak Island Water Main Improvements, DWSRF Construction Project Number 4405? Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keith?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna? Yes. Councilor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch?
No.
No. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo? Yes. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino?
Yes.
Yes.
On the
That loan order has
resolution.
been approved. On the resolution for DWSRF number 4405, shall the City Council approve the resolution for, construction project number 4405? Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keith?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch?
No.
No. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo? Yes. Councilor Rotundo? Yes. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino?
Yes.
Yes, the resolution has been approved.
Roll call on 205.
Shall the City Council approve a loan order, the amount of $550,000 for planning and design of Oak Island water main improvements, DWSRF Planning Project Number 4378? Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keith?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch?
No.
No. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo? Yes. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino?
Yes.
Yes, that loan order has been approved.
On the resolution?
Shall the City Council approve the resolution for DWSRF Planning Project Number 4378? Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keith?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch?
No.
No. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo? Yes. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino?
Yes.
Yes, the resolution has been approved. No. Separate.
Anyone wish to vote on reconsideration with hopes that it does not prevail for each of these? Just asking the council if we should go through each one and do that, if we
All
feel
of
it's
them.
necessary. All of them?
Yes.
All right, so we kind of did this backwards. So, Madam Clerk, if we could start at the top with 204, well, the way it's listed on the agenda, and then we'll go back. So, on reconsideration with hopes that it does not
Just
prevail?
point of information, I
Yes.
am not going to call for reconsideration, so if you're worried about that, I'm not going to do it, so.
Yeah, just in case. No offense. Madam Clerk? Oh, we don't have to do a roll
Yeah, you never
call.
know if I might do it, huh?
On reconsideration with 204, with hopes that it does not prevail, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered. Reconsideration on 205, with hopes that it does not prevail, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered. Reconsideration on 206, with hopes that it does not prevail, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered. Reconsideration on 207, with hopes that it does not prevail, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered. 208, on reconsideration with hopes that it does not prevail. All in favor? All opposed? So ordered. 209, in hopes that it does not prevail. All in favor? All opposed? So ordered. And I think that covers it. And for the edification of everyone watching, what that means is that a counselor cannot, after the vote is taken of the council, reconsider the motion. So that just ensured the vote of the council to make sure that we can meet these deadlines. The appropriation transfers? Yeah. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you all very much. Have a good evening.
We're going to finish the committee, and then, like I said, we'll go back to, I didn't forget you. All right, calendar item on the subcommittee number 12, 18, 234, fiscal year appropriation transfers, Mr. Chairman? End of year transfers?
I was kind of hoping the auditor was still here to discuss the...
He's here.
Oh, there you are. I didn't see you. Okay, then I'd like to ask the auditor to come forward and go over the transfers, please.
Good evening. Sorry, I took all my budget stuff downstairs with that order. I don't have it in front of me, but basically, the nature of that order is just to move money to accounts and from accounts to end the fiscal year in positive. The budget was inherited by me, and basically, this is just a cleanup order to allow us to close the books. My hope is that we don't, I have a copy of the order now, but basically, my hope is not to have to come back here in July for another transfer, so we try to cover them all comprehensively here. So I do have a copy of the order now, and I'll do my best to answer any questions to clear it up.
Okay, well, Madam President, so I've got this particular document that I believe we just received today with the department account descriptions and the amounts, right? That you sent, like...
We submitted this to the city clerk on Friday, and basically, like I said, there's a zero net effect on the budget. It's just clearing up any accounts. A lot of them have to do with the collective bargaining agreements and funding all of the contracts. But again, this is just a cleanup debit and credit transfer on general fund appropriations so that we can close the fiscal year out.
Right, well, this can be something that we can talk about possibly for next year, because it's a little bit confusing to me, the way it's laid out, to be honest.
I don't disagree. It's a 5-page document with debits and credits. Again, I don't think you'll have this type of document next year because I prepared the budget, and it's designed to be a true 12-month budget with every appropriation hopefully adequate. So, again, I apologize for this, but this is just a budget I inherited that I'm trying to make some cleanup for so we can close the year without any free cash penalties, et cetera. But I'm happy to try to answer any questions. But again, I think the net effect is zero, so I just want to make that clear.
Okay, I know it's netting out to zero, which is fine. I'm sure I probably have some questions, but I just don't know what questions to ask because I really can't figure out through those 5 pages. So, and I know you probably submitted it on Friday, but by the time I got it on my email, it was Monday, and but that's, Madam President, I don't have any questions. These are just transfers, year-end transfers to balance the books. I'm okay with it if the council is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't see any hands. So, Madam Clerk, on the transfers.
Shall the City Council approve the end of fiscal year 2018 transfers as reported by the City Auditor's letter dated June 21st, 2018, so that the city may close fiscal year 2018 with no appropriation deficits. Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morabito?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino? Yes, the transfers have been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So that concludes the agenda for Ways and Means. Mr. Chairman, thank you for your leeway in letting us continue it on through halfway the council meeting, but we did it. While we're under suspension, I just want to take up Councilor McKenna's verbal motion, and I'm going to read it and then let her go. So that the mayor requests to submit and present any SRF loan order requests and any loan orders related to the consent decree by May 1st to allow for enough time to thoroughly review and discuss each loan order. Councilor McKenna, on your motion.
Thank you, Madam President. I agree. Thank you.
On Councilor McKenna's motion, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered. This time we'll return to the regular order of business. All in favor? All opposed? So ordered. Calendar item number 6.
Hearing called as ordered on the application of Bellevue Revere LLC, 72 Squire Road, Unit 2, Revere, Mass., seeking permission from the Revere City Council to construct 4 townhouse units on Lot 14, Bellevue Ave, Revere, Mass. Townhouses may only be allowed within the RB district by special permit of the City Council.
This is a public hearing, so at this time I'll call any proponents. Attorney Rhodes.
Good afternoon, councilors. Corey Rhodes with D'Ambrosio Brown, LLP, 14 Proctor Avenue in Revere. I represent the applicant, Bellevue Revere LLC, and its principal, Jamie Russo. This is in regards to a special permit that was approved in May of last year for 8 townhouse units. And this is actually a proposal to reduce the scope of that project, to bring it down to 4 townhouse units. Still meeting all parking and all dimensional requirements. It's just in the term of the number of units we're talking about. My clients work closely with the ward councilor to make a more fitting project. This is going to be less dense and have fewer potential impacts on the neighborhood. But again, do want to stress it does meet all parking and all dimensional requirements. It's really that simple. It's a very same project otherwise in design in terms of what the buildings will look like, townhouses, and it's just going to be 4 units instead of 8. We would like to ask, whereas this is reducing the scope of a previously approved project, if it's at the will of the council to acknowledge and possibly approve the project tonight on this special permit would be much appreciated. And we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Attorney Rhodes, just a point of information. Any special permits by law cannot be voted on the same night that they are put before the council. So it will go to committee, and it will be voted on before the next council meeting.
I'd always like to ask, so.
Any other proponents? Any other proponents? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Are there any opponents here this evening? Anyone opposed? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Any councilors? Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Madam President. So I'm just concerned, are you still going to have the residential parking for residents on that street? Because I know the first, when you came up here the first time, you said that you were going to accommodate residents by putting in parking on the side, so.
Given that this is a reduced size of the project, it's no longer needing to extend the road any further. I think they're perfectly fine going with a resident parking permit in this area. I have no problems with that. But it's not going to build an extended roadway, and that's part of how it's a smaller impact on the neighborhood.
Okay, and one other question, how many parking spaces for each townhouse?
They will each have 2. So
2?
each unit has 2 parking spaces.
So 4?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, that would be a total of 8 parking spaces.
Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Madam President. This is a Ward 5 area project. I'm very happy tonight to say that we were able to work with the developer to cut the number of units in half, and also put to rest the fears that the residents down there had with a road going from Ford Street to Bellevue. I trust that's completely out. And I feel that the area down there can certainly handle 4 units. I'm sure they'll be done in a proper manner. And I will support this over the 8 units that were originally proposed. And also, again, the main concern was people did not want a road going around down there from one street to the other. And I'm happy to hear that tonight, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you,
sir.
Counselor. Counselor Zambudo.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to congratulate the ward councilor and the developer for coming to this compromise. I know that it was a big, big deal, and the neighbors were not happy with what was going up there in the first place. And I think this is the kind of developer that we want in the city, that will work with us even after he had the approval to build the 8 units, comes back and reduces it to 4. This is the only time I ever wished that I could vote on a special permit the same night, because that was my law. So, I can't go against that. But this is one that I probably would have voted on the same night. But congratulations to everybody involved. And this is why I praise this particular developer, because he cares about the city and cares about a quality project in the neighborhoods, and not trying to come in here and jam something down anybody's throat. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Counselor Rotundo.
I don't think people remember the night that the first permit process was taking place. Mr. Russo was up here, and the neighbors were quite angry, and they were talking. And one of the things that I said to them very clearly is, he gave you his word that he is going to work with you. The one thing I can say about Jamie Russo is, when he gives you his word, you can go to sleep, because he will keep it. And this is a person of integrity, and like Tony, I wish I could vote for it tonight. But this is one of the few developers within the city that, for the most part, I can blindly say I will vote for. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other counselors? If I may, I definitely agree with my colleagues to my left, and I'll save the rest of my comments for the zoning subcommittee.
Thank you.
Calendar item number 7, hearing called is ordered on the application of Leon Gespetz, Brookline, Mass., seeking permission from the Revere City Council to expand a non-conforming 6-unit residential use to an 8-unit residential use within the GB district at 542 Beach Street, Revere, Mass.
Again, this is a public hearing, and all special permits will go to subcommittee. At this time, I'll call any proponents.
Attorney Laureen Scatino, representing Leon Gespetz. He apologizes for not being able to be here tonight. He just had a medical procedure. This here building is an already pre-existing condition. It has been assessed as 8 units. My client purchased the property in 2014 as an 8-unit building, and the fire department had issued permits for 8 units. At this point, we are seeking to legalize those 2 units. They are completely vacant at this point, and the only violation that we would have on this would be parking. The parking, my client also owns another property just down the street at 536 Beach Street, and we would have the ability to allow any tenants to park there as well. And I can take any questions with that.
Any other proponents? Any other proponents? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Are there any opponents? Anyone opposed? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Any counselors?
Madam President, I'm going to wait till we go into committee on this. It's in my ward.
And again, this will go to zoning. Anyone else? I heard a Counselor Rotundo.
Thank you. Quite frankly, this is, for me, a very easy issue. When we were talking about last week about relief regarding townhomes in the, or 2 families in the RB district, or for that matter, other properties that need relief based upon prior issues, this is one of those properties. So I'm in favor of providing the relief, and we'll put it in committee and deal with it there.
Thank you. Any other counselors?
Thank you, Madam President. I'll save most of my comments for the committee meeting, but I also am inclined to support this because of the, number one, the attorney, and I've discussed this with her, and I know she's discussed this with the ward counselor, and she's willing to work to do the right thing here. So these are the kind of ones we sort of need to approve, in my opinion. But I'll save the rest of my comments for the subcommittee meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. I'll ask the zoning chair, could we do a meeting on July 23rd prior to the council meeting?
1 second, please.
Perhaps 5:30 if possible, Counselor?
July 23rd.
Correct.
I was hoping to make it earlier if that's possible.
Could you do it at 4 or 4:30?
No, I was hoping to actually do it on the 9th. July
Oh, yeah,
9th.
yeah. There's not going to be a vote till the 23rd. So the next city council meeting, because we go to summer recess, July and August, is the 23rd.
I do have a doctor's appointment the 23rd. I don't know what will happen, that's why.
Okay.
And if not, we'll have councilors in Budo fill in. That's why I wanted to do it on the 9th.
We can have the zoning subcommittee meeting on the 9th.
On the 9th,
What time
and
do
then
you
vote
want
it
to have
up on the 23rd.
Sure.
Thank you.
What time on the 9th?
5 o'clock?
All right, so the next zoning subcommittee will be on July 9th at 5 p.m. Zoning. Next public hearing.
Calendar item number 8, hearing called is ordered on the application of RVP Hotel LLC, 1359 Hooksett Road, Hooksett, New Hampshire, requesting permission from the Revere City Council to modify an existing planned unit development by increasing the number of permitted hotel rooms from 132 rooms to 152 rooms at 245 Revere Beach Parkway, formerly known as 205 Revere Beach Parkway.
This time we'll ask for any proponents.
Christine Thomas, a partner in RBP LLC Hotel, which is the owner of the property. A few remarks that I listened to concerns expressed in my appearance before the City Council on April 23rd and in subsequent follow-up conversations. A dual branded lodging concept is important to the success of this project. Dual branding offers 2 product types in moderate quantities, appealing to 2 different audiences with the efficiency of 1 common public space offering. It will not only add to the vibrancy of the hotel, but also more importantly, add to the long-term viability of the project in the face of the potential for oversupply in the market that is softening and the inevitability of the next economic cycle. We are requesting a 20-room increase from 132 to 152 in the overall room count as the only modification to our existing permits. This revised modification would reduce the number of extended stay rooms from 132 to 72 and add 80 standard rooms. This is a further reduction of 8 extended stay rooms as compared to the dual branded proposal presented to you on April 23rd. This plan allows for us to remain within the footprint of the permitted building. There would be no change in length of the building, no front setback change whatsoever. Additionally, a minor modification to the parking layout allowed us to maintain the currently approved 0.5 parking ratio. As a group, we focus on transit-oriented hotels. Our team is very committed to transportation and parking management, planning, and execution. Airport van transit and MBTA proximity will prove to produce a low use of personal transportation. The updated traffic study prepared for the April 23rd meeting showed no traffic impact created by the expansion proposed on the 23rd, and this is a smaller request. To further highlight the low impact of our project in advance of this hearing, we completed a 7-day car count, June 2 through 8, for the 2 properties in Chelsea that we own and operate, at the same approximate distance from Logan Airport. The Residence Inn and the Homewood Suites currently have 0.5 parking ratio, the same as proposed for this project. The Residence Inn has 128 rooms. The occupancy for the surveyed period was 97%. The average car count was 28. The Homewood Suites has 152 rooms. The occupancy during the surveyed period was 94%. The average car count was 44. My partners and I pride ourselves in delivering high-quality urban lodging, consider ourselves to be good community citizens, and we do not make frivolous requests. This is a carefully considered request important to the success of the project. It will be able to generate higher occupancy and rates during a good economic cycle and protect itself in downturn economies. So for the city, this improved project provides for a 15% increase in the real estate tax revenue that will be generated as compared to the currently permitted project, and of the projected $471,000 for the first year of rooms and meals tax, 10% of that will be attributable directly to this dual brand change. I welcome your questions that you might have of this project. Thank you.
Thank you. We are still under a public hearing, so I'll ask for any other proponents. Are there any other proponents here this evening?
Madam Chairman, members of the council, my name is Robert O'Brien. I'm Director of Economic Development for the City of Revere, and we stand in support of this project. We urge your approval of the amendment being filed in this case, and we also stood in support of the special permit passed in September of 2016 that permitted this project and the associated residential development. As you know, a similar petition was presented to you on April 23rd, and despite its various benefits for the city, that did not secure majority approval from this council, in large part because it involved and required additional relief in terms of dimensional issues, the building footprint and envelope, as well as the parking ratio. As the proponent indicated, they listened to what they heard from this council. Indeed, I think subsequent to the April 23rd meeting, the proponents met individually or discussed this matter with virtually every member of the council. And I must commend them for coming back with a proposal which is better as a result of the April 23rd hearing and your input, but preserves the benefits of this project essentially with no additional cost in terms of either relief dimensionally or parking. And I would indicate that among the benefits of this project are the reduction in the number of extended stay rooms, which many had indicated in the early special permit hearing was a source of some concern. I would also note, however, that for the city of Revere, there are significant financial benefits to this amendment as well. As has been indicated, there is approximately close to $1 million worth of taxes, both property and hotel-related taxes, from this project. This will result in an increase of 10 to 15% in that amount annually, not at all insignificant. So for all of these reasons, including the preservation of the benefits at no additional burdens to the city, we would very much urge you to consider this favorably when it is acted upon at the zoning subcommittee and thereafter at the next meeting of the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Any other proponents? Anyone else in favor? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Any opponents?
Jan Dumas, 50 Walnut Avenue. Back in April, as we all discussed it, she was told not to come back. Here we are again. So I guess when she gives you a word, you drink a lot of coffee and pay more attention. I'm still concerned that they're coming back again, and I'm concerned they're going to keep coming back until they get that much larger building. No one in the community has ever been in favor of this property. I know there's a lot of promises that there's going to be a lot of money for the city, but they are just promises. And please, please, for the citizens in this area, we don't want a larger hotel. We don't want more rooms. And we are all still very concerned that if you give her the extra rooms, or if you give this group the extra rooms today, that they are going to come back again and try to get those additional stories that they want and continue to add rooms and continue to add stories until property is nothing like what we, the residents of that area, were promised.
Thank you. Any other opponents? Anyone else opposed? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. I will open this up to councilors, keeping in mind this will be going to the July 9th zoning subcommittee meeting. Counselor.
Thank you. I support the project. I was not for the building of the building down at Shaw's, but I am for the hotel for sure. It's a better product for the city, and more importantly, it'll add more revenue to the city. I kind of find some people's opposition confusing, especially when they're for affordable housing in certain parts of the city and then not for a hotel that's going to provide money for the city. So I'm a little perplexed. But that said, I can't wait to hammer this out in committee and make sure this gets through. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Keefe.
Thank you, Madam President. I didn't realize this was going to committee, but
I think I said that at the beginning, that
sorry.
all special
Apologies.
permits have
All
to go to
right.
committee.
I haven't gotten enough
I'll
airtime
reiterate it
tonight.
again.
All right. You know, I was one of those councilors on April 23rd that had some concerns with the proposal because I was under the impression you were going to be changing the footprint, which I have a greater sense of relief tonight that the footprint is not going to change. The setbacks are not going to change. The parking variance is not going to change. This is a proposal that we approved over a year ago, almost 2 years ago, actually. And I mean, I just got to say this I think everyone agrees, and I'm not saying you should vote yes or no, but hotel rooms in the city are great. And if you do the math, 20 extra rooms at 90% occupancy, and we all know that most hotels near the airport have 105% occupancy, 20 extra rooms is almost $100,000 a year. So I see no reason that I would, outside of when last meeting we'd mentioned we didn't like that you went and changed the rules on us, or you went back and fixed it, and I appreciate that. So look forward to hearing this in zoning.
Counselor McKenna.
Thank you, Madam President. I agree with my counselor on my right, but I want to ask you a question. Have you met with any of the labor unions to have work done, and do you plan on it? Like maybe the carpenters unit, the electricians, the IBEW 103?
The carpenters and the IBEW are both unions that I'm in regular conversations with.
Great.
Most recently, I've spoken to both the regional representatives for both of those unions in regards to this project specifically. And the IBEW is working with us in preparing a list of contractors that they would like to bid, and we're in close communication with them at this time.
Great. Thank you, Chris, very much.
Okay.
Counselor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I've been for this project right from the beginning, and I voted for it the last time. I still think it's good. I don't believe it's going to impact the neighborhood, and they have agreed to, I've received some complaints from the neighbors about the corner of North Shore Road and the Revere Beach Parkway, and they've agreed to put up a nice fence there to protect the creek area to stop any debris from going down there in the future. So, we work with them, and I think the reduction of the extended stays is a positive item because, even though I don't believe that's a great word to use, and I've said that before, but I think it'll work. I think it is good for the city, and overall, I think they'll be good neighbors. Thank you.
Counselor Patch.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to say that I was, like I told you the last time, I was one of the three that voted against the original project. I thought it was too big for for that area, and I told you when you came before us the last time that I was going to vote against it because you were going to make the building bigger, larger. So I agree with Councilor Keefe that you leaving the building the same size, and I like the idea of hotel rooms better than apartments. So I'm going to be in favor of it this time. Thank you.
Councilor Powers?
Thank you, Madam President. I took the time to go out and, as you know, look at your property out there in Chelsea. I was very, very much impressed, as I said at the time. It was clean, it was functional, and it was actually, to be honest with you, I think it was a little more than I expected to see. It was a little more upscale. And, you know, as I told you then, after that conversation, that I would support this. I think to the city, if you're renting those rooms or $200 a night, we're looking at about $87,000 a year in additional revenue, not to mention the 0.75% on the meal and beverage tax, and not to mention the permitting fees for the addition and also the real estate tax on the addition, which is double the residential. So I certainly will support that. There's one thing I also would like to mention. It'd be nice if we could get the carpenters in there doing some work, their union, and also maybe this is a little conflict of interest. I have a couple of grandchildren that work for Local 103, and that'd be nice too. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam President.
Councilor Rizzo?
Thank you very much, Madam President. Well, let me say this for starters. It's nice that we're moving away from extended stay and into another brand. I've never been a fan of having an extended stay hotel down there. So that's on the positive side. On the negative side is the increase in rooms. Now, I just need to know, because as I was reading through the special permit application, it doesn't say about any change in the actual square footage. Is there no, I mean, so what are you making the rooms smaller?
Extended stay hotel rooms are quite large, so by dropping the room count of the extended stay from 132 to 72, that allowed us to gain that extra 20 rooms so long as they were standard rooms.
Okay.
So no change in the footprint whatsoever?
No change in the footprint?
No.
And the parking, the thing that would concern me about parking, because as many spaces as people may use to actually use the hotel room or be guests of the hotel, sometimes what blows that all apart is park and flies. And personally, I would like to see an amendment against any type of park and fly there so that people aren't going to get crowded out in the neighborhood if this does wind up being approved. As I said last time you were here, I am not one that's in favor of expanding projects once it's voted on, because we find that, I think, a little bit too often. People, they get a special permit passed, they come back and they're looking for more and more and more. In this case, there's no doubt that, you know, the extra rooms tax, of course, the city could use that, the taxpayers could use that, but then you also have to weigh that at the quality of life for those neighbors. So if I'm assured that there's no increase in the footprint itself, that there's going to be no accommodations made for park and fly, no applications for licenses, and that the parking ratio is going to stay at 0.5, you know, that could be something that that, you know, could be acceptable because, you know, again, you know, we want to make sure that any abutters in that neighborhood are protected from what goes on down there. It's already a pretty sizable project. I think anybody that drives by there can see the size of it, and I'm not sure how many people expected that. I know people I've talked to have commented, and, you know, we haven't even got into the hotel phase yet, so it's going to be a pretty significant project down there for people who lived in that area, some their whole lives, so we want to make sure that we're protecting them. But again, I'll wait until subcommittee to speak on this further. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Councilor Rizzo, would you like to make that park and fly a condition on the special permit?
I would like to. I would like to.
We can make note of that.
Yes, please.
Councilor Zambudo.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm encouraged by listening to my colleagues here. It seems that everybody is on the same page. You know, I was for the project that came before us in April because it was reducing. We had permitted 132 keys of extended stay on the first hotel. And then they came back and wanted they wanted 160 rooms, and 80 of them were going to be extended stay, and 80 of them were going to be regular hotel rooms. And what nobody understood, and I tried to make the case, was that you needed much less parking when you have a regular hotel room. When you have an extended stay, they usually rent a car. And you need parking for extended stay. But this project now requires half the parking. It's much better for the city. It's an absolute no-brainer. It's just, and I was one who did my homework long before tonight, and I had visited the properties that these people own, and I knew what we were getting, and that's why I was such a cheerleader for it. It's, when we, you know, I'm not one for people coming back, but what we have here tonight was we had a developer come back and cut his project in half. We have a hotel developer here that has a track record that's come back with a much better project. So I'm thrilled. I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be happier to support this, and you know, I want 3 more of these if we can get them. Thank you.
Councilor Guanasso.
Thank you, Madam President. I obviously voted on April 23rd against the proposal as submitted. But after modifications were made, and realistically, you made it to the advantage of the community where we can get additional revenue, and which we always need. I know people are critical of every movement we make on this council in terms of advancement. But anytime we can promote a hotel within our community, I will stand tall with that and say that a hotel industry within our community is really what we're looking for. It's all kinds of revenue with very little city services required and no use on the school structure. So, and adding to that, the population that's increasing by the hour. So, when this comes out of subcommittee, because you already had a subcommittee now because we circumvent the law of what we submitted. We don't even know what subcommittees are anymore, but in any event, I will be voting favorably for this when it comes out of subcommittee.
Councilor Morbido, last but not
Thank
least.
you. Can I just say, Madam President did give me the opportunity to speak. I waived it, and thank you for the latitude to let me speak once again, well, this time, because you made it very clear that we're going to talk about this subject in subcommittee. That's what subcommittee is all about. So I echo the same comments that Councilor Guanasso spoke of. I was in favor of this project before as well. Let's keep in mind, when one is looking at this project from the very beginning, this was a project that was coming to us with just residential units, no commercial whatsoever. We voted down, they came back, and they gave us a commercial component, okay? Now, we voted on that special permit, and then you came back, and you wanted to cut back. this is actually better than your last proposal, because not only does it cuts parking spaces, but it also does the same as before. It cuts the extended stay units. One of the main concerns that the audience and residents spoke about up at that podium was the fear of extended stay units. They were in fear that they were going to become affordable housing units. So not only does this proposal alleviate their fears because you're reducing the amount of units, you're decreasing the amount of parking, and you're increasing the amount of single unit hotel units, which end result, the city gains revenue. So I'm still in favor of this project.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other counselors have any other comments? If I may, sticking true to what I said at the beginning of the public hearings about 5 times, all of these public hearings will be going to committee. I will save my comments for committee, and I believe that my colleagues had some wonderful comments that would have been very appropriate in committee. Zoning.
Calendar item number 9, hearing called is ordered on the petition of National Grid and Verizon to install a new jointly owned pole, number 102-1, on Franklin Street.
Any proponents here this evening?
Good evening, Council. My name is Mike Cordima from National Grid Electric, 170 Medford Street, Malden. There was a new home built up at 125 Franklin Street. In order to get them power, we need to place a new pole and extend some secondary power cables in order to serve the house. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Any other proponents? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Any opponents? Anyone opposed? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. I'll open this up to my colleagues. This is not a special permit, so this could be voted on this evening, so this would be an appropriate part for conversation. Anyone have any questions? I have one, but Councilor Zambudo?
I don't have a question. It's for a new home, and I'm looking to approve it, that's all. Thank you.
I just have one question. Are they currently on strike?
Gas is. No, gas has a lockout. They negotiated till around 6:30 this morning, and now they're locked out. The company locked them out. Thank you.
Understood. Just wondering if it would affect that at all.
Electric still, we're working.
Perfect. All right. Roll call.
Shall the City Council approve the petition of National Grid and Verizon to install a new jointly owned pole, number 102-1, on Franklin Street? Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morabito?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch? Yes. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo? Yes. Councilor Rotundo? Yes. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino? Yes, the petition has been approved. Calendar item number 10, hearing called is ordered on the petition of National Grid and Verizon for a joint pole relocation of pole number 2438 on Temple Street.
Any proponents here this evening?
Good evening again, councilors. We propose to relocate this pole 40 feet to accommodate the customer at 10 Garofalo Street. I believe it's the East Boston Neighborhood LLC. And in order to make a better power delivery for them, we relocated the pole 40 feet to run straight down with the primary. And it also, I noticed that when we moved it, it got out of this customer's driveway, which is a pretty good thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents here this evening? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Are there any opponents here this evening? Anyone opposed? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Again, councilors, this is not a special permit, so this could be voted on this evening. Councilor Guanasso?
Thank you, Madam President. Whereas this is going to service the Pace Health Center, which I'm anxiously waiting for, I ask my colleagues to please vote favorably for this so we can get this ongoing right away. We need that health center up and going. Thank you, sir.
Councilor Zambudo?
Obviously, I'm in favor of this. However, I think the person that got its driveway cleaned should thank Neighborhood Health Care. East Boston Neighborhood Health Care. Anyways, I'm in favor, obviously.
Thank you, Councilor Zambudo. Any other councilors? On the motion, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 11, hearing called is ordered on the petition of National Grid and Verizon for a joint pole relocation of pole number 106 on Park Ave.
Any proponents here this evening?
Good evening, councilors. Out here on Park Ave, that's like right over by Saugus, we have a customer and the pole is in, here's his fence line and this is his driveway, and it's like right here. So he asked us if we'd move it. So we agreed to move it. He'll run his power cables out. He's going to run a conduit up the pole. So it's behind a fence. There's no roadway. It's not going to impede anybody. It's actually off of anybody's radar there. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents here this evening? Any other proponents? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Any opponents? Anyone opposed? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Councilors, Councilor Keefe.
Thank you, Madam President. Can you clarify, you said Park Ave's near Saugus. Park Ave is right down the street over here, off Broadway.
Okay, it's hard for me to describe. It's that North Revere area.
That's definitely not Park Ave.
There's a Park Street. Well,
Is there a Park Street in North Revere, Charlie?
it's Park Ave Saugus, which is like on the other side of this barrier. And this side is Revere and the pole is here.
Nick Saya, I live on Park Ave in Saugus.
Okay.
So there's a river that runs down the side of the street, and that's actually the Revere and Saugus line. So the house is in Saugus. The street I drive down is actually Revere. So
Let's approve something.
We don't care what happens in Saugus, do we? No.
Sounds good.
Charlie, do you have anything? I say we go for it.
I'm paying for it, $2,500,
All
so
right.
please.
If you need it, then you get it. Anything else you want in Saugus?
And I'm a 103 electrician.
Hey, all right, you definitely get it.
Anyone else on the council? On the motion, all in favor? Oh, wait, yeah, all opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 12, hearing called is ordered on the application of Envu American Dry Cleaners for a permit to install an awning at 363 Revere Street.
Any proponents here this evening? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Any opponents here this evening? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. City councilors.
Madam President,
Councilor.
whereas he didn't think enough to come before the city council for the approval, I would ask that we table this until they can make an appearance before the council.
The gentleman was here and had to leave.
He was here for 3 hours.
This was a very lengthy council meeting, so I asked that we put it in committee. We can always leave it there. So we'll put it to committee? Is that okay, Councilor?
We
You
might
love
as well talk
committees.
about it, because everything we send to committee, we talk about anyway, so let's talk about it.
I agree. We can tell them how much we love them.
I don't have a problem with
This will
this.
be going to
If
Public
you-
Works. Councilor Gunasso, my favorite committee.
I don't even know why we have subcommittees, but honestly, let's continue. The appointment subcommittee met this afternoon. Much to my surprise, one of the applicants didn't appear. And what we're going to do is table that applicant, because I firmly believe that the intent of the subcommittee is to have people appear before it, so we have an opinion of what the person has to say. Madam President, 18-186, the reappointment of LaMontagne Brothers, Inc. as a licensed drain layer was approved, and reappointment of Miola Construction as a licensed drain layer, that was also approved. And I applaud these gentlemen for staying, and they waited a long time, too. And I ask this council vote them both out favorably unless they have any objection.
Councilor Gunasso, just a clarification. Menino, do you want to table it or just leave it in committee?
Just table it, just keep him on file, but if he doesn't show up the next time, then I would ask that it be dropped.
So we'll keep it in committee, we won't
Keep it in
table
committee.
Okay, so on calendar items 186 and 229, can we take those up together, Madam Clerk? All in favor? All opposed? So ordered. 139 will stay in committee.
Calendar item number 28, motion presented by Councilor Powers, that the mayor convene a meeting to discuss resources available and possible solutions to abate the flooding problems that the city has recently experienced in the areas of Rice Ave, Mills Ave, Pines River, and other affected areas. The entities or individuals should be requested to attend are a federal delegation, state delegation, the Army Corps of Engineers, DEP, the City Council, and the Director of Planning and Community Development.
Ward 5, Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Madam President. I think we're all aware of the flooding problems that we experienced this past year, just several months ago. The Boulevard and 1A were completely closed down during that time period. Rice Avenue, Mills Avenue, the same way. And I think that any reasonable person would agree that it's only going to get worse. It's getting worse and worse every year. But I think this year here was a wake-up call. So I think it's very important that the mayor, being the executive head of this city, convene a meeting with the different agencies that can work collectively to abate the situation in those areas and other areas of the city, perhaps even in Councilor McKenna's area. It's so important because I was down there on Mills Avenue, I was over on Rice Avenue, and the water was just almost as high as the guardrail, if not as high as the guardrail. And it's something that we don't want to sit around for another year or two and say, oh, wow, we should have done something. I think the time to do the planning and get it in operation is right now. And I would hope that the mayor would convene that meeting ASAP, and we could really get started on this, find out what resources are out there through the federal and state governments, and what permitting needs to be done. I would imagine that the Army Corps of Engineers, and that's a process. The DEP, that's another process to get the permitting done. So again, that's my rationale for this motion. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Powers. Ward 1, Council Vice President McKenna.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to put an amendment on this to include Ward 1. If that's okay
Certainly,
with
Councilor,
Councilor. Thank you very much, Councilor Powers.
Any other councilors? Anyone else?
Hello, Eric Lampadecchio, 43 Tapley Avenue. This motion's a little bit overdue. We just got flooded out this past winter. The flooding was well over the guardrail. Many people were actually displaced down in those neighborhoods, so it created a real challenge. This also came up recently at the Point of Pines Beach Association annual meeting, in which both the mayor and Councilor Powers, as well as myself, were in attendance. There was a question by that group as to whether or not the city or the Beach Association owns the wall along Rice Avenue. I'm not sure if the mayor has contacted Councilor Powers if there's an answer yet, but I have not received any answer, and I had several 311 tickets regarding who owns the beach wall. So, Councilor Powers, I'm not sure if you have an update on that, but just curious if we can get an answer to the Point of Pines Beach Association as to who's responsible for the repairs of the Rice Ave wall.
I can give you an update. I spoke recently with Bob Mara several times. He is researching that. My own opinion is if the Army Corps of Engineers built that wall, then certainly they didn't say to individual homeowners, you own this part of the wall. They said to the city of Revere, we built the wall, you maintain it.
Right.
And that's one of the things we are going to be doing down there. Donnie Chamara is going to be forming certain areas of that wall. We're going to be pouring concrete to reinforce it and get it back into shape. And I'm equally as concerned with Mills Avenue. That's, I think right now, that's more of a serious problem over there because they don't have the dunes over there to protect them.
There's no protection
And,
over there.
in the boatyard, that's another problem there, and we're working to get that cleaned up. I was down there with the mayor on Saturday. We did some, cleaning of the area down there as part of the program we had for that day. And there are several areas down there where there are floats that are broken away, and they need to be taken away from there. And I know the mayor is going to be working on this within the next couple of weeks. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you, everyone. On the motion as amended, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 29, motion presented by Councilor Keefe, that the mayor request the city solicitor to revise Boston's short-term rental ordinance to be applicable to the city of Revere. there's been a steady increase in the number of homes and condominiums being purchased for the sole purpose of operating short-term rental businesses, thus reducing housing stock for families and individuals looking to purchase a property in Revere to live permanently. Boston's new short-term rental ordinance addresses this aspect of the short-term rental problem.
Ward 4, Councilor Keith.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I know that this will probably be going to some form of a committee, whether it's legislative affairs or zoning, but I just want to bring up the fact that I know the state's going to be doing some legislature on this, but I know that a lot of the meat is going to be required to be done city by city. So I was in reviewing Boston's proposals. It looks like there's a lot of good information that we can probably cross-reference and utilize to present in Revere. Just for point of information, I looked it up, and Revere has over 200 Airbnbs currently right now. So it's eating up the housing stock, as we already know, and it's creating a rise in rental properties, and obviously the cost of living in the city of Revere is going to be tougher and tougher. So this will help, and obviously, you know, like people that own a house on my street, I'm sure that they don't want to be living next to people that are using it as a hotel. But we'll talk about it in committee.
I think this is a great motion, and I'm thinking zoning subcommittee, in which I'll refer to the chairman. Councilor Rotundo, do you have a question? Yep, it's going to your committee, which again, July 9th. Zoning.
Calendar item number 30, motion presented by Councilors Janino and McKenna that the City Council draft and approve an ordinance promoting all public parks as drug, alcohol, tobacco, and weapon-free zones.
Councilor McKenna asked if I could speak on this, so I'll speak on it briefly. This is something that her and I have been working on since she got elected. We've been trying to get this ordinance taken care of. We put a lot of thought into it. It's very well written, and it is made sure, to anyone's edification, that is a licensed owner. It does not infringe on any rights, constitutional rights. So I want this to go to a public hearing on July 23rd. Councilor McKenna, any other comments?
I just want to say that there were 3 needles in the Louis Pasteur Park while children were playing in the park. Alcohol bottles were also detected. So, I mean, I think something needs to be done. People are going after hours, climbing the fence and hanging out down all in some of the parks. So I think this is necessary. It's not a feel-good motion. It's necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you. We need to put cameras within the parks. If we don't, there's really no point in having this. You're not going to catch people because they come at pretty much all hours of the day, all hours of the night. And in order to hold someone accountable, you're going to have to figure out who's putting the needle or whatever there. You're going to need cameras looking out on the street so you can catch them to see where they're going. Hopefully they're not going on foot, maybe on car, you can get a license plate. But you need to have some type of active and passive security there. So just some input. Bye.
Agreed. Public hearing, July 23rd.
Calendar item number 31, motion presented by Councilor Powers that the mayor request DCR to examine the Cary Circle seawall on the ocean side to determine the structural integrity of the wall as the rebar is being exposed. Further, that appropriate action be taken if repairs need to be made.
Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Madam President. I was down there looking at that seawall, and we're talking about the ocean side of the seawall. And if anything is in way of crumbling, that seawall certainly is with the storm surges they have down there. You can actually see the rebar and the cement facing is off it. You can see the stone. I think this is something that DCR has to look at right away and make some recommendations to our state delegation to get this resolved. Otherwise, we could have serious problems within a couple of years. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Powers. On the motion, oh, Councilor McKenna.
Sorry. Just a quick note. Could I just put also Revere Beach Parkway, Winthrop Parkway on that, because we have a 6-inch gap between the wall and the sidewalk. Thank you.
On the motion as amended, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered. There is no further business. As historically has happened, the City Council will go on to a summer recess for the months of July and August. There'll be one meeting in July and one meeting in August. Just a couple of announcements. The Moroccan Festival that was supposed to be held last Saturday will be held this Saturday. Another announcement is the Sandcastle Festival that we hold annually it begins on Friday, July 20th. It'll be held on the 21st, in the 22nd. Oh, we have a very special announcement. I'm gonna let Councilor McKenna speak for a moment.
Thank you, Madam President. I am having a photography show at the E.B. Newton Gallery from 2 to 5 on Saturday, the 30th. It might interfere with the Moroccan festival, but come by, look at my photographs, and I hope you like them, and I hope you buy them. Thank you.
Shameless plug. Councilor McKenna, I'm sure we all look forward to it. Thank you so much. This concludes the City Council meeting. There will be again a zoning committee on July 9th. The next City Council meeting will be held on July 23rd. There are subcommittee meetings that will happen before the 6 p.m. meeting. Everyone have a safe summer, and we'll see you at the Sandcastle Festival. Happy 4th of July.